Have you ever looked up at the silent, indifferent expanse of the night sky and asked the universe, why me? Why is this happening to me? It is a question born of exhaustion, a cry whispered from the deepest parts of the spirit when the weight of the world feels too personal, too targeted. You feel it as a relentless current pulling you under. A series of waves, one after another, that seem designed to test the very limits of your endurance. There is the pain of loss, the sting of betrayal, the dull, persistent ache of not being where you thought you would be. Life feels like a sequence of events that happen to you, a script written by an indifferent author in which you are merely a passive character, reciting lines of struggle and quiet desperation. The world outside hums with a frantic energy, a chorus of demands, expectations, and the curated perfection of other lives. And this noise only serves to amplify the silence of your own unanswered questions. You have fought, you have striven, you have pushed the boulder up the hill only to watch it roll back down, again and again. And now you are tired, a weariness that is not in the bones, but in the soul. But what if the question itself, that desperate plea of why me, was flawed from the very beginning? What if the entire premise was wrong? What if we could, just for a moment, entertain a single revolutionary thought? A thought that does not change the events of your life, but changes everything about them. What if every challenge, every heartbreak, every failure, every closed door was not a punishment, but a preparation? What if every wave that crashed against you was not meant to shatter you, but to wash you clean, to strip away who you were not, so you could finally see who you are? What if the universe was never happening to you, but was always, in every moment, unfolding for you? This is not a hollow promise or an easy comfort. It is an invitation to step out of the storm, to quiet the noise, and to begin the sacred work of deciphering the language the universe has been speaking to you all along. Let us begin that journey here, in this space of stillness, and learn to read the map that is hidden within your own story. It begins not with a thunderclap, but with a whisper. It is a quiet, persistent hum beneath the surface of your days. On paper, life may look as it should. There is a roof over your head, food on the table, a routine that structures your weeks. You have ticked the boxes that society presented to you. You have played the game according to the rules you were taught. Yet, in the silent moments, when the distractions fall away, a feeling rises. It is not the sharp, identifiable pain of a fresh wound, but something more subtle, more pervasive. It is the splinter of discontent. A physical splinter is a tiny, insignificant thing. You might not even notice how it got there. But once embedded beneath the skin, it makes its presence known. It does not cause agony, but it prevents true comfort. You can function, you can work, you can go through the motions, but your body is always aware of this small foreign object. There is a low-grade inflammation, a dull ache that serves as a constant reminder that something is not right. You find yourself unconsciously protecting that small, tender spot. You avoid putting pressure on it. You move with a subtle, new caution. This is the nature of the splinter in your soul. It is the feeling of misalignment. It is the quiet but unwavering sense that the life you are living is not entirely your own. It is the job that pays the bills but starves your spirit. It is the relationship that provides companionship but demands you shrink yourself to fit within it. It is the accumulation of 1,000 tiny compromises, 1,000 moments where you silenced your own truth in favor of peace, of acceptance, of not rocking the boat. Each compromise was a tiny, almost painless insertion of that splinter. And now, they have coalesced into a persistent, undeniable ache. The internal conflict this creates is immense, a silent war waged within the fortress of your own mind. One voice, the voice of the ego and societal conditioning, is loud and clear. It is the voice of should. You should be grateful. Look at all you have. There are people with real problems. Your dissatisfaction is a luxury, a sign of weakness, of being ungrateful. This voice shames you into silence. It points to the external evidence of your life and declares it a closed case. To feel discontent is to be a traitor to the life you have so carefully constructed. It is a deep and profound guilt, the guilt of not being happy when all the ingredients for happiness are supposedly present. But then there is another voice. It is not a voice of logic, but of feeling. It is a whisper from your deeper self, your soul. It does not argue or rationalize. It simply asks, with a heartbreaking sincerity, is this all there is? Is this really it? Is this the life my heart came here to live? This voice rises in the quiet moments. It speaks to you in the melody of a sad song, in the final rays of a sunset, in the first breath of the morning before the mask of the day is put on. It is the source of that deep, inexplicable sigh that escapes you when you think no one is listening. The conflict between the loud shouts of should and the quiet whisper of the soul is where your energy is drained. It is a state of internal friction that generates the heat of anxiety, the smoke of depression, and the ashes of burnout. We become masters of avoidance, experts in numbing the area around the splinter. We plunge ourselves into frantic work, believing that success and achievement will finally dissolve it. We chase relentless distraction, scrolling through the lives of others, binge-watching series, filling every spare moment with noise and information, so we do not have to face the hum of our own inner emptiness. We might use food, alcohol, or shopping as a temporary anesthetic, a way to create a fleeting sensation of pleasure or fullness that masks the deeper void. We do everything we can to avoid putting pressure on that tender spot. But the splinter remains. The numbness itself becomes a symptom, a sign that we have disconnected from our own vital feedback system. The tragedy is not the presence of the splinter, but the fact that we have been taught to see it as an enemy to be silenced, rather than a messenger to be heard. Here is the truth that can begin to set you free. That splinter of discontent is not a sign that you are broken. It is not a symptom of ingratitude. It is, in fact, a sign of profound spiritual health. It is the immune system of your soul doing its job perfectly. It is alerting you to the presence of something foreign, something that does not belong within the authentic ecosystem of your being. It is a sacred signal. It is the first, gentle pull from the universe on a thread that, if you follow it, will unravel the comfortable but suffocating cocoon you have woven around yourself. It is a call to return. The discomfort is a grace. The ache is a compass. It is the first undeniable proof that life is happening for you, not to you. It is a loving, if persistent, attempt to get your attention before a louder alarm is needed. So what do you do with this realization? You do not try to pull the splinter out. Not yet. To do so with force would only tear the flesh and cause a greater wound. The first step is not action, but acknowledgement. It is a radical act of presence. Your practical work, your sacred duty, is to simply allow the feeling to be. Find 5 minutes of uninterrupted solitude. Sit down, close your eyes, and let go of the need to fix, change, or understand anything. Bring your attention into your body. Scan it gently and locate where the splinter of discontent lives. Is it a tightness in your chest, a hollowness in your stomach, a tension in your throat? Do not name it. Do not judge it. Simply feel its physical signature. Place a hand over that part of your body, a gesture of gentle, loving attention. Breathe into that space. With each inhale, imagine you are creating more room around the feeling. With each exhale, release the story that you have attached to it. Just be with the raw sensation. Give it your quiet, undivided attention. In doing so, you are telling it, I see you. I hear you. You are welcome here. You are no longer my enemy. You are ending the war. After sitting with the feeling, take out a journal. At the top of the page, write the question. What are you trying to tell me? And then, begin to write. Do not let your conscious mind dictate the words. Let the feeling itself speak. Do not worry about grammar or spelling or making sense. Let it be a stream of consciousness, a raw data dump from your soul. Perhaps it will be a single word, repeated over and over. Perhaps it will be a flood of grievances and unmet longings. Perhaps it will be a memory from childhood you had long forgotten. The point is not to create a literary masterpiece. The point is to honor the messenger by receiving the message, no matter how inconvenient or disruptive it may be. By doing this, you stop numbing the ache and start metabolizing it. You are transforming it from a source of pain into a source of information, a source of fuel. The splinter, once acknowledged and honored, ceases to be an irritant and begins its transformation into a guide. It is the first clue on your journey back to yourself. Once the splinter of discontent has been acknowledged, once you have sat with its dull ache and honored its presence, the ego's primary defense mechanism kicks in with formidable force. It is a reaction so swift, so automatic, so deeply conditioned that we rarely even notice it as a choice. It is the mechanism of blame. Discomfort demands a cause, and the ego, in its desperate need for self-preservation and moral righteousness, will always search for that cause outside of itself. It is here that we step out of the quiet room of self-reflection and into the deafening noise of the echo chamber. Imagine a room, sealed and perfectly circular. Its walls are not made of stone or steel, but of your most deeply held, unexamined beliefs about the world. Beliefs like life is a struggle, people will always let you down, I never get a fair chance, the world is an unsafe place. These beliefs form the polished, reflective surfaces of your chamber. Now, when a painful event occurs, a project fails, a partner leaves, an opportunity is lost. You stand in the center of this room and you shout your pain outward. It was his fault, you cry. Her incompetence ruined everything. The system is rigged against me. The shout, which is pure, raw energy of hurt and frustration, travels to the walls. And the walls do what they are designed to do. They reflect the sound. The belief that people will always let you down doesn't absorb your cry. It echoes it back to you, subtly altered, amplified. The echo returns not just as your own voice, but as seeming proof from the universe itself. Let you down. Let you down. Yes, you were let down again, you see? The belief that life is a struggle echoes back. Struggle. Struggle. Of course it is a struggle. It always has been. The chamber doesn't just contain your shouts, it curates your reality. Each echo strengthens the belief that built the wall, making it thicker, more soundproof, more reflective. After a while, the echoes become so constant, so overwhelming, that you forget you were the one who shouted in the first place. You believe the noise is simply the nature of the world. You are living inside the resonant frequency of your own grievance. The tragedy of this chamber is that it can feel deceptively comfortable. Blame is a seductive force. It offers a simple, linear narrative in a world that is complex and chaotic. It takes the tangled mess of human interaction and circumstance and neatly divides it into a story of good versus evil, hero versus villain, righteous victim versus unjust perpetrator. And in this story, you are always the hero. There is a potent, if hollow, sense of moral superiority in being the one who was wronged. It absolves you of the messy, difficult work of self-inquiry. If the problem is out there, then you don't have to change. You just have to wait for the world, for other people, to finally see the error of their ways and give you what you are owed. Furthermore, this chamber creates a powerful, if toxic, form of connection. You find others who live in similar chambers whose walls are built from the same despairing beliefs. You gather together and your echoes harmonize. Your shared stories of victimhood become a chorus, a symphony of blame that validates your position. You too? I know exactly what you mean. It feels like understanding, like empathy. But it is often a shared powerlessness, a bonding over wounds that are kept open by the constant retelling of the story of how they were inflicted. It is a fellowship of inmates who endlessly debate the cruelty of the guards, never realizing the door to the cell is unlocked. The true cost of residing in this chamber is your power. It is the most valuable currency you have. Every time you assign blame, you are handing over the keys to your emotional state to the person or circumstance you are blaming. You are saying, "You have the power to make me angry. You have the power to make me sad. My peace is contingent upon your actions, my happiness dependent on your approval." You become an effect rather than a cause. Your life becomes a state of perpetual waiting, waiting for an apology that may never come, waiting for the person to change, waiting for the system to become fair, waiting for justice. To wait is to be powerless. The echo chamber of blame is the most insidious prison ever designed because its inhabitant believes they are a captive, when they are, in fact, the architect, the warden, and the prisoner, all in one. This is the turning point. This is the moment of profound insight that must occur. The patterns you observe in your life, the same kind of partner who always betrays you, the same kind of boss who always undervalues you, the same feeling of being overlooked time and time again, are not a cosmic coincidence. They are the echoes. You are standing in the center of your chamber, shouting a specific frequency of belief and emotion, and the universe, bound by the laws of energy and resonance, has no choice but to reflect that exact frequency back to you. The world isn't doing this to you. It is reflecting you for you. The repeating pattern is the curriculum. The persistent echo is the lesson, patiently waiting to be understood. The experience will continue to appear. The echo will continue to sound until you finally stop shouting and turn your attention from the walls to the space within. So, how do you break the spell? How do you leave the chamber? You do not fight the echoes. You do not try to reason with them or shout over them. You begin the practice of dissolving the walls. You do this with a tool that feels counterintuitive but is unshakably powerful. Radical responsibility. This is not self-blame. Self-blame is simply turning the shout of blame inward, making yourself both the villain and the victim. It is still a story of fault. Responsibility is different. It is not about fault. It is about power. It means recognizing your response, your ability to respond. The practice is simple in its instruction, but profound in its application. The next time you find yourself in a situation that triggers the impulse to blame, stop, acknowledge the feeling. Allow the anger, the frustration, the sense of injustice to be there. And then, ask yourself this question. What is my 1%? You are not asking, how is this all my fault? You are looking for your single percentage point of ownership. Perhaps the other person is 99% in the wrong. You cannot change their 99%. Your only point of power, your only hope of freedom, lies within your 1%. What could that 1% be? Perhaps your responsibility was that you ignored the early red flags because you were lonely. Perhaps your responsibility was that you did not communicate your boundaries clearly and consistently. Perhaps your responsibility was in expecting someone else to provide a feeling of security that you must cultivate for yourself. Perhaps your responsibility was simply in choosing to participate, to stay in the job, to continue the friendship long after you knew it was no longer aligned. Finding this 1% is not an act of self-flagellation. It is an act of profound empowerment. In that single percentage point, you find your agency. You cease to be a passive victim of a story and become an active participant with a choice. You take back the pen. As you practice this, something miraculous happens. You begin to install sound-dampening panels on the walls of your chamber. When you find your 1% of responsibility for a painful event, you absorb the energy instead of reflecting it. The shout goes out, but it doesn't come back with the same force. The echo begins to fade, and in the growing silence between the echoes, you can start to hear something else. A quietness, a stillness, the sound of your own power returning to you. You realize the chamber was never sealed. You were simply standing with your back to the door. By taking responsibility, by looking for your 1%, you are slowly, deliberately turning around to face the exit. and in the walls that once seemed so solid, so absolute, you begin to notice the faintest outline of a crack, a place where a new kind of light is waiting to get in. In the profound quiet that follows the fading of the echoes, something new can happen. When you have practiced the discipline of radical responsibility, when you have sat in the center of your chamber and refused to shout, the silence becomes active. It is not an emptiness, but a state of potent readiness, and it is in this charged stillness, often when you least expect it, that the first crack of light appears. It is not a cataclysmic explosion that brings the walls of your prison tumbling down. It is far more subtle, more intimate. It is a single hairline fracture in the solid stone of your perception, and through it, a sliver of impossible light shines through, illuminating the stale air of your cell. This moment is born not of striving, but of surrender. It arrives after you have exhausted yourself asking the old question. You have screamed, "Why is this happening to me?" at the unyielding walls until your throat is raw and your spirit is bruised. The question has brought you no answers, no peace, no resolution. It has only deepened the grooves of your own suffering. And in the moment of ultimate exhaustion, when you finally give up asking, when you let the question fall from your lips like a dead weight, a space is created. Into this space, a new question can arise. It often comes as a whisper, a flicker of curiosity from a part of you that you thought had long since been extinguished. It asks, what if? What if this is happening for me? Or perhaps, more simply, what is this for? The difference between these two questions is the difference between a locked door and a key. Why me is a question that spirals inward upon itself. It is a closed loop of rumination. It seeks a cause in the past, a justification for suffering, a villain to blame. It is a heavy, contracting energy that reinforces the feeling of powerlessness. It is the question of the victim. But what is this for? Is a question that opens outward. It is an inquiry into purpose. It does not deny the pain of the event, but it presumes a potential for meaning within it. It is a light, expansive energy that engages your creativity and your wisdom. It is the question of the student, the explorer, the alchemist. This is the crack of light. The moment this new question forms in your consciousness, a fissure appears in the monolithic wall of your story. The wall, built from the hard stones of past traumas and cemented with the bitter mortar of blame, suddenly proves itself to be less than absolute. The light that pours through is a revelation. It does not magically remove the pain or solve the external problem. The job may still be lost, the diagnosis may still be real, the grief may still be present, but the light changes your relationship to it entirely. For the first time, you are seeing the event not as a meaningless assault, but as a piece of a larger, unseen puzzle. The light illuminates the dust motes of your old beliefs hanging in the air. It shows you the rust on the chains you have been wearing. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there is an outside to your current reality, and the existence of that outside changes everything. The ego, however, does not rejoice at this development. The ego is the warden of your prison, and it has grown comfortable in its role. It finds the familiar misery of the victim story to be safe. That story has an identity. It has a script. It knows who is good and who is bad. It generates sympathy. The crack of light is a profound threat to this identity. It introduces uncertainty, responsibility, and the terrifying prospect of freedom. And so, the ego will rush to patch the crack. A chorus of familiar voices will rise up to discredit the insight. Don't be a fool, it will hiss. You're just letting them off the hook. What they did was wrong. Your pain is real and justified. This happening for you is just spiritual nonsense, a naive way of avoiding the harsh reality of the situation. This is the great internal conflict of the awakening process. Your soul, like a plant in a dark cellar, instinctively turns and stretches toward that sliver of light, knowing it is the source of life. Your ego, the terrified warden, tries to block it out. trying to convince you that the familiar darkness is safer than the unknown brilliance. To choose the light is to begin the process of dismantling a core part of your identity. It requires letting go of the story of being wronged, a story that may have defined you for years or even decades. It is the choice between the perverse comfort of a known hell and the intimidating promise of an unknown heaven. To persist in asking the new question is an act of profound courage. It is siding with the whisper of the soul against the sirens of the ego. Let us look at what is happening on a deeper level. The question, why me, activates the primal, survival-oriented parts of your brain, the amygdala, the seat of fear, the limbic system, the home of unprocessed emotion. It is a threat response. Your body is flooded with stress hormones. Your thinking becomes narrow, defensive, and circular. You are in survival mode. The new question, what is this for, engages a different part of your neurology. It calls upon the prefrontal cortex, the center of higher reasoning, creative problem-solving, and perspective. It shifts you from a state of being hunted to a state of being a detective. The question itself is a form of cognitive alchemy, transforming the leaden weight of a problem into the golden potential of a purpose. This is the work. This is the practice. You take the raw, painful material of your life and you hold it up to this new light. You consciously choose to ask the new question, even when it feels awkward or foolish. Take a challenge you are facing right now. Let us say you are in the midst of a painful breakup. The old question is, why did they leave me? What's wrong with me? Why do I always get abandoned? Feel the weight of those questions. They lead only to a downward spiral of self-recrimination and despair. Now, let us introduce the crack of light. Take a breath and ask, with genuine curiosity, what is this experience for? What is the end of this relationship making possible for me now? What part of myself did I silence or lose to maintain this connection that I now have the opportunity to reclaim? Is this experience teaching me about my own worth, independent of another's validation? Is this clearing a space for a relationship that is more aligned with who I am becoming? Is this forcing me to build a life so full and beautiful on my own that a partner becomes a wonderful addition, not a desperate requirement? Do you feel the shift? The facts of the situation have not changed. The pain of the loss is still there. But you are no longer a passive casualty of the event. You have become an active participant in the extraction of its meaning. You have shifted from being an object to which things happen to a subject who finds purpose within what happens. You are no longer looking backward for a cause to blame. You are looking forward for a reason to grow. This is the first taste of true freedom. The light streaming through that single crack proves that the walls are not permanent. It proves that you are not trapped. It proves that the story can be changed. You are not erasing the past, but you are reframing it. You are transforming your wounds into a source of wisdom, your scars into a map. That crack of light is the universe's invitation. It is the confirmation that your life is not a random series of unfortunate events, but a purposeful, intelligent, and ultimately benevolent unfolding, designed to guide you home to the most powerful and authentic version of yourself. The light is in now. It cannot be unseen, and it will begin to illuminate everything in your chamber, most especially the very nature of your own resistance to it. The crack of light has appeared, a testament to your courage to ask a new question. But the light does not instantly transport you to a field of flowers. Its first and most crucial function is to illuminate the interior of your cell. And what it reveals, in stark and unflinching detail, is the primary mechanism of your own suffering. It is a force so pervasive, so deeply ingrained in the human condition, that it operates as our default setting. It is the engine that burns the fuel of our life force, leaving us exhausted and in pain. It is the great resistance. Imagine that life, the unfolding of the present moment, is a vast and powerful river. The river has its own intelligence, its own course, its own inexorable flow. It moves in only one direction, forward. It is not personal, it is not malicious, nor is it benevolent. It simply is. Now, from a very early age, we are taught to fear this river. We are taught that we must control it, bend it to our will, force it to go where we want it to go. And so, we spend our entire lives turned upstream, swimming against this immense, unyielding current. This is the very nature of resistance. It is the act of mentally, emotionally, and physically fighting against the reality of what is. Look at how it manifests. You are stuck in traffic. The river of life is, in that moment, a stationary line of cars. Resistance is the clenching of your jaw, the tightening of your grip on the steering wheel, the repetitive, angry thought. This shouldn't be happening. I'm going to be late. This is terrible. You are mentally arguing with a reality that is already present and unchangeable. You are swimming against the current. The traffic does not move any faster because of your anger. The river is unimpressed by your struggle. The only person who suffers from this internal battle is you. The energy drain, the stress, the infusion of cortisol into your bloodstream. This is not caused by the traffic jam. It is caused by your resistance to the traffic jam. Consider the weather. It begins to rain on a day you had planned for sunshine. Resistance is the feeling of disappointment, the complaint, the mental narrative of a ruined day. It is the subtle war you wage against the sky. This resistance does not stop a single drop of rain from falling. It only poisons your own experience of the day. We do this with everything. We resist our own feelings. I shouldn't be sad. I need to be strong. We resist the actions of others. He should have called. She shouldn't have said that. We resist the past. If only I had made a different choice. That should never have happened. And we resist the future. I can't handle it if that happens. It has to turn out this way. Each of these thoughts is an act of swimming against the current. Each one is a source of immense, self-inflicted exhaustion. The core of the issue is this. Your suffering is not caused by the circumstances of your life. It is caused by the gap between your expectation of how life should be and the reality of how life is. Resistance is the energy that creates and maintains that gap. The greater the resistance, the wider the gap, and the more profound the suffering. Peace is not found by miraculously forcing the river of reality to bend to your will. Peace is found by closing the gap. It is found by letting go of your argument with what is. The ego hears the word acceptance and recoils in horror. It misunderstands it as passive resignation, as becoming a doormat, as condoning bad behavior, or giving up on your goals. This is a profound misinterpretation. Acceptance is not about liking your reality. It is not about wanting it to be that way. Acceptance is a fiercely intelligent and pragmatic act. It is the simple, non-judgmental acknowledgement of the facts on the ground. It is looking at the river and saying, I see. The current is flowing this way. Only from this point of acceptance can wise action be taken. If you are swimming frantically against the current, you have no energy or awareness left to navigate. You are merely surviving, flailing. But if you stop fighting, if you turn around and allow the current to hold you, you are now in a position of power. You can conserve your energy. You can observe your surroundings. You can see the approaching rocks, the forks in the river. You can use a gentle kick of your feet to steer yourself toward a different bank. You cannot use the river's power to your advantage until you first accept its direction. You cannot decide to get an umbrella until you first accept the reality that it is raining. You cannot begin to heal a wound until you first accept that you have been hurt. Action born of resistance is frantic and ineffective. Action born of acceptance is calm, clear, and powerful. The mind is the generator of resistance. It does this through its incessant need to judge and label everything. It superimposes a grid of good and bad, right and wrong, should and shouldn't onto the seamless, neutral fabric of reality. The moment the mind labels the present as bad, the war begins. The body follows suit, tensing for the fight. The breath becomes shallow. The heart rate increases. The emotional body floods with negativity, anger, anxiety, despair. These emotions are not inherent to the situation itself. They are the friction burns you get from rubbing up against the grain of what is. They are the alarm bells signaling that you are in a state of resistance. Your practical work on this leg of the journey is to become a student of your own resistance. The invitation is to learn how to float. This is not a passive act, but a conscious skill. It begins with noticing the signs of struggle. Notice the tension in your body. Is your jaw clenched? Are your shoulders creeping up toward your ears? Notice the quality of your thoughts. Are they complaining, judging, worrying? Notice your emotional state. Is there a baseline of frustration or anxiety humming beneath the surface? These are the indicators that you are swimming upstream. When you notice this, do not judge yourself for it. That is just another layer of resistance. Simply see it, and then introduce a single, sacred practice. It is the practice of allowing, in the midst of your frustration with the traffic, take a breath and whisper internally, I allow this to be here. The traffic is here. My frustration is here. I allow it. You are not saying you like it. You are simply dropping the argument with the fact that it exists. When you are feeling anxious about the future, place a hand on your heart and say, I allow this feeling of anxiety to be present. I allow this uncertainty. As you do this, notice what happens in your body. It is an immediate, palpable biofeedback. The jaw softens, the shoulders release, the breath naturally deepens. You have just ceased channeling your precious life force into a futile battle. You have stopped fighting the river. In that moment, the current, which moments before felt like your adversary, now becomes your support. It holds you, it carries you. The energy that you were wasting on the struggle is now available to you for conscious living. You have closed the gap. This is the end of suffering. It does not mean the end of pain. Life has inevitable pain. There is loss, there is sickness, there is change. The river will have its rapids and its waterfalls, but suffering is optional. Suffering is the story we tell ourselves about the pain. Suffering is the resistance we mount against the inevitable. By learning to allow, to accept the reality of the present moment, you learn to navigate the pain without creating the secondary and far more draining layer of suffering. You learn to feel sadness without becoming the story of, I am a sad person. You learn to experience failure without becoming the story of, I am a failure. You drop the argument with what is, and in the quiet that follows, you find a strength you never knew you possessed. You are no longer a victim of the river. You are learning to become a master of the journey. The light has cracked through the walls of your perception, and in its beam, you have seen the great, churning engine of your own resistance. You have felt the exhaustion of swimming against the current of what is. A profound question naturally follows. Why? Why do we resist so fiercely? What deep internal logic compels us to fight a battle we can never win? The answer lies in the very structure of the world we inhabit, a world built not of matter, but of mind. To understand our resistance, we must turn our attention to the invisible architecture that governs our lives. We must realize that we are living in a prison of our own design. This is not a metaphor for your external circumstances. The prison is entirely internal. Its walls are your core beliefs. Its bars are your unexamined assumptions. Its guards are your own fears. And the great, tragic irony is that you are not only the prisoner, pacing in your cell and longing for freedom. You are also the guard who patrols the perimeter. And most importantly, you are the architect who drafted the blueprints and oversaw the construction long ago. The blueprints were drawn in your childhood. As a child, your primary drive was to survive, to make sense of the world, and to secure love and safety. A child's mind is not yet capable of complex, nuanced reasoning. It is profoundly self-referential. It believes that everything that happens is somehow about and because of them. It takes the raw data of its environment and draws beautifully simple, powerful, and often flawed conclusions. These conclusions become the foundational beliefs, the blueprints of the prison. Consider this. If you had a parent who was emotionally distant, perhaps due to their own trauma or stress, you did not have the capacity to think, "My parent is struggling with their own issues." Your young mind drew a more direct conclusion. "I am not interesting enough. I am not lovable enough." This conclusion, "I am not worthy of love," became a foundational stone of your prison. If you were punished for making a mistake or for not meeting a high standard, you did not conclude, "My caregivers have rigid expectations." You concluded, "I must be perfect to be safe and to be loved." This belief in perfectionism became another wall. If your home environment was chaotic or unpredictable, you concluded, "The world is an unsafe place. I cannot trust anyone." This belief in danger and mistrust became the bars on your window. These beliefs were not your fault. They were brilliant, adaptive survival strategies at the time. They helped you navigate a confusing world. They were the shelter you built to protect your fragile sense of self. The problem is that we forget that we built this shelter. We grow up, but the structure remains. The beliefs, once conscious conclusions, sink deep into the subconscious and become the invisible lens through which we experience all of reality. They are no longer thoughts we have. They are the reality we see. They function as a powerful filter that deletes or distorts any evidence that contradicts them. If your core belief is, "I am not worthy," and someone offers you a genuine compliment, your filter will immediately dismiss it. "They're just being nice. They don't really mean it." If you are offered a wonderful opportunity, your filter will whisper, "You're not ready for that. You'll only fail." When a challenge arises, the belief is confirmed. "See, I knew it. Life is always hard for me." Your reality becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, perpetually validating the original blueprint. The prison walls are self-repairing. This is the direct source of your resistance. You resist the flow of life because your core beliefs tell you that the river is dangerous. You fight against intimacy because your blueprint says, "People will always leave." You struggle against visibility and risk because the plans say, "If you are seen, you will be judged and rejected." You resist relaxation and joy because a deep, forgotten rule written long ago insists you must always be striving to prove your worth. Your war against what is a war waged on behalf of these ancient, outdated beliefs. Within this structure, three aspects of you are in a constant, dramatic interplay. There is the prisoner, the part of you that feels the pain, the limitation, the longing. It is the part that presses its face against the bars, staring at the freedom it intuits but cannot reach. Then there is the guard. This is your inner critic, the voice of your ego. The guard patrols the walls, endlessly repeating the rules of the prison. "Don't do that. Be careful. You're not good enough. Remember what happened last time?" The guard's deepest secret is that it believes it is protecting the prisoner. It is enforcing the old survival strategies, terrified of what might happen if the rules were broken. And then there is the architect. This is the quiet, observing consciousness within you, the silent watcher. The architect is the part of you that is aware of the prisoner's pain and the guard's fear. The architect remembers drawing the plans. It understands that the design, which once served the purpose of a protective fortress, has now become a suffocating cell. The central conflict of our lives is that the drama between the tormented prisoner and the fearful guard is so loud and captivating that we forget that we are, and have always been, the architect. Freedom, therefore, is not about overpowering the guard. Fighting the guard is fighting yourself, a futile civil war. Freedom is not about smashing down the walls with brute force. The walls are made of your own energy. To smash them is to exhaust yourself. The path to liberation is to awaken the architect. It is to gently withdraw your attention from the prisoner-guard drama and to reclaim your true identity. It is the profound realization that if you design this structure, you also have the power to change the design. You can review the blueprints. You can knock down a wall here, add a window there. You have the authority. You have always had the authority. This is the practical work, to become a conscious architect of your inner world. Begin by identifying a painful, recurring pattern in your life, a pattern of self-sabotage, of attracting the same kind of difficult relationship, of chronic financial struggle. This pattern is the most prominent feature of your prison. Now, stand before it, not as the prisoner, but as the architect on an inspection. Ask the question, what would a person have to believe about themselves or about the world to consistently create this outcome? Be ruthlessly honest. The answer is a core belief. It might be, I believe I don't deserve to be happy, or I believe that success requires struggle, or I believe that I am fundamentally alone. Once you have identified the belief, write it down. I hold the belief that. The next step is an act of gentle archaeology. Ask, where did I learn this? Whose voice, originally, is this? What experiences in my early life carved this belief into stone? This is not about blame. It is about understanding. By tracing a belief to its origin, you depersonalize it. You see it not as an ultimate truth about you, but as a historical artifact you have been carrying. You see it was a child's conclusion, not an adult's reality. The final step is to actively destabilize the prison wall. You must consciously search for counter-evidence. Your guard will tell you the belief is 100% true and will show you all the evidence to prove it. Your job as the architect is to find the exceptions that prove the rule is not absolute. If the belief is, I am not worthy, your assignment is to write down 3 instances, no matter how small, where you were treated with worth and dignity. 3 moments where you demonstrated your own value. This act of seeking and acknowledging counter-evidence is like taking a chisel to the mortar between the stones. It creates weakness. It creates doubt in the guard's certainty. It proves that the wall is not as solid as it appears. It is a structure of thought, and thought can be changed. You are not the prison. You are the infinite open space in which the prison was built. And you, the architect, have decided it is time for a renovation. Having stood as the architect before the walls of your own prison, you have seen that the structure is built from the hardened mortar of your own beliefs. The logical impulse, the ego's impulse, is to grab a sledgehammer and begin a furious assault on these walls. But freedom is not won through more struggle, more violence, more resistance. The way out is not a battle, it is a release. It is the discovery of a power so immense, yet so subtle, that it has been overlooked your entire life. It is the discovery of the profound, transformative, and deeply misunderstood art of surrender. In our culture, the word surrender is soaked in the language of defeat. It conjures images of a white flag on a battlefield, of giving up, of losing. The ego equates surrender with weakness, with utter failure. It is the one thing the ego, with its desperate need to control, to manage, and to be right, will fight to the death to avoid. And that is the entire point. Surrender is a death. It is the death of the illusion of control. It is the death of the tyrannical, fearful part of you that believes it has to micromanage the universe for you to be safe. And in this death, a new life, a new way of being, can finally be born. The tyranny of the ego's control is the source of your exhaustion. Consider the immense and invisible labor you perform every single day. The mental energy spent replaying past conversations, searching for what you should have said. The hours consumed by worrying about a future that does not exist, scripting out a dozen possible scenarios and trying to prepare for each one. The constant, subtle effort of managing other people's perceptions of you. The internal tension of trying to hold everything together, your finances, your relationships, your healths. If you were a lone juggler trying to keep 1,000 glass balls in the air, this is the job the ego has assigned you. It is a job with no salary, no vacation, and only one guaranteed outcome: anxiety. Because the ego's entire project is based on a lie, the lie that you are in control. The truth is, you control almost nothing. You do not control the traffic, the stock market, the weather, or the moods of your loved ones. You do not control the aging of your body or the great sweeping tides of global events. The ego's frantic attempt to manage this uncontrollable reality is like trying to command the ocean with a teaspoon. It is an act of pure futility, a recipe for perpetual frustration. The true path to power lies in a paradox. It lies in yielding. It lies in becoming like water. Water is the softest and most pliable of all elements. It has no fixed form. It does not argue with a stone in its path. It simply flows around it. It does not resist the shape of the vessel it is poured into. It adapts perfectly. A rigid, unyielding stone, which is the nature of the ego, can be shattered by a sharp blow. But you cannot shatter water. You cannot harm it with a fist. Its power is in its utter lack of resistance. Yet, over time, this soft, yielding water can carve canyons through the hardest rock. It overcomes all things, not through confrontation, but through its persistent, relentless surrender to the path of least resistance. To learn to surrender is to learn to become like water. It is to move from the brittle rigidity of the ego to the fluid, adaptable power of the soul. This is the alchemy of surrender. In the ancient art, alchemists sought to turn base metals, like heavy, dull lead, into pure, shining gold. In the inner world, the lead is the dense, heavy energy of fear, anxiety, and the need for control. The gold is the light, radiant, and free-flowing energy of peace, trust, and creative flow. Surrender is the alchemical fire that transforms one into the other. It is the act of consciously offering up the heavy lead of your resistance to a higher intelligence. You are saying to the universe, to the river of life, I have been trying to manage this on my own, and I am exhausted. I have been fighting the current, and I am drowning. I release my white-knuckled grip. I let go of my need to know how, my need to know when. I trust that there is a wisdom here that is greater than my fear. This is not giving up on your dreams or desires. It is a profound shift in strategy. You still hold the vision of your destination, a life of more peace, more love, more purpose. But you surrender your rigid, fearful attachment to the exact path, the exact timing, and the exact form in which it must appear. You let go of the how. You trust that the river, now that you are no longer fighting it, knows the way to the ocean better than you do. You are collaborating with life, instead of competing with it. You can feel the difference in your own body. The energy of control is tension. It is the clenched fist, the locked jaw, the held breath. It is a body braced for impact. Right now, as you listen to this, consciously make a tight fist with your hand. Squeeze it. Feel the strain in your forearm, the tension. This is the physical signature of resistance. Now, deliberately, slowly, open your hand. Let the fingers unfurl. Feel the release, the warmth, the blood returning. Feel the softness of an open palm. That feeling of release is the feeling of surrender. The body knows this language implicitly. The clenched fist cannot receive anything. The open hand is ready to give and to receive. The way to cultivate this state is to practice. You do not begin by trying to surrender to your biggest, most terrifying life problems. You build the muscle of surrender in the small, low-stakes moments of your day. You are standing in the longest, slowest line at the grocery store. The ego's control impulse immediately kicks in. The frustration rises. The internal complaint begins. This is your training ground. Take a breath. Physically soften your shoulders. Unclench your hands. And say to yourself, I surrender. I surrender my need for this line to move faster. It is what it is. For these few minutes, my purpose is simply to stand in this line. I release the fight. Notice what happens. The frustration dissolves. The energy you were wasting on internal complaint is now available to you. You might notice the tired expression on the cashier's face and feel a pang of empathy. You might see a magazine cover that sparks an idea. A space of peace opens up where there was once only irritation. Practice with everything. Your friend is late. Surrender your need for them to be on time. It is raining. Surrender your argument with the sky. You make a small mistake at work. Surrender your need to be perfect. Each of these small acts of letting go is a repetition that strengthens the muscle. You are training yourself on a cellular level to trust the flow of life. And when you have practiced surrendering to a traffic jam, you will be better equipped to surrender to a diagnosis. When you have practiced surrendering to a change of plans, you will be better equipped to surrender to the end of a relationship. You will meet life's great challenges not with the panicked flailing of a drowning victim, but with the quiet, grounded presence of one who has learned how to float, who has learned to trust the water that holds them. By surrendering your personal will, you align yourself with a universal will. You stop being a person to whom life happens, and you become a conduit through which life happens. The force you once thought was your enemy reveals itself to be the very power that is carrying you home. You have learned to stop fighting the river. Through the alchemy of surrender, you have turned yourself around and begun to float on the current of what is, conserving the immense energy you once wasted on resistance. The frantic struggle has ceased, and a new quietness begins to permeate your being. But now, a new question arises. How do you navigate from this place of surrendered flow? How do you read the subtle eddies and currents of the river to understand its direction? The answer lies in cultivating the one thing our modern world fears most: stillness. Our world is addicted to noise. We are conditioned to believe that value lies only in action, productivity, and communication. We fill every spare moment with stimulation: podcasts during our commute, television during our meals, endless scrolling through the lives of others before we sleep. Silence has become a vacuum to be abhorred, an emptiness to be filled at all costs. To be still is considered lazy. To be silent is seen as awkward. We have come to mistake the frantic hum of activity for the feeling of being alive. But the great secret, known to mystics and sages throughout history, is that all true power, all genuine insight, and all clear guidance is born not from the noise, but from the silence it obscures. You cannot hear the whisper of your own soul if the mind is screaming. You cannot perceive the subtle guidance of the universe if you are consumed by the relentless chatter of your own anxieties and plans. The journey into stillness is therefore the next essential step. And for most of us, it is a profoundly uncomfortable one. The moment you decide to be still, to simply sit and do nothing, the ego rebels with incredible force. A sudden phantom itch appears on your nose. Your leg feels an overwhelming urge to twitch. A forgotten item on your to-do list suddenly becomes a matter of life and death importance. Your mind, which was quiet moments before, erupts into a cacophony of random thoughts, worries, memories, and judgments. This initial agitation is not a sign that you are failing at being still. It is a sign that you are succeeding. It is the ego's panic response. The ego defines itself by doing, by solving, by thinking, by controlling. In the silent, empty space of simply being, the ego has no job. It has nothing to grasp onto. It feels a terrifying sense of its own dissolution, its own irrelevance. And so it will throw everything it has at you to get you to move, to think, to do something, and pull you back into its world of noise. To sit through this initial storm is an act of courage. It is like holding steady in a detox, allowing the poisons of restlessness and distraction to rise to the surface and burn themselves out. The mind is like a deep lake. For years, the winds of external stimuli and internal resistance have whipped its surface into a constant, choppy turmoil. The water is murky, filled with the sediment of agitated thoughts and emotions. In this state, the lake's surface reflects nothing but its own chaos. It cannot offer a clear image of the sky above. This is the condition of the ordinary distracted mind. It cannot perceive reality clearly. It only experiences its own internal weather. The practice of stillness is the act of allowing the wind to cease. When the wind stops, the lake does not become calm instantly. The waves slowly, gradually, begin to subside. The churned-up mud and sediment slowly, gracefully begin to settle to the bottom. As the particles settle, the water becomes clear. Eventually, the surface becomes like a perfect mirror of polished glass. In this state of profound stillness, the lake can now reflect the sky above with perfect, undistorted clarity. The sun, the moon, the vastness of the cosmos all finds a home in the receptive mirror of the still water. A still mind can perceive the truth of the present moment, without the distortions of its own fear and desire. Furthermore, once the water is clear, you can see deep into the lake itself. You can perceive the hidden life in its depths, the terrain of the lakebed. A still mind gains access to its own profound depths, the realms of intuition, subconscious wisdom, and soul-level knowledge. The answers you have been seeking in the noisy world outside were always waiting for you in the silent world within. Stillness is not an absence. It is not an emptiness. It is a state of profound, potent receptivity. It is the fertile darkness of the soil from which all new life springs. It is the silence between the notes that gives the music its beauty and form. Stillness is the prerequisite for hearing the truth. The guidance that arises from this space is of a different quality than the ego's frantic planning. The ego's ideas are loud, urgent, and often tinged with anxiety. The insights from stillness are quiet, simple, and imbued with a sense of peace. They often arrive not as a fully formed plan, but as a gentle nudge, a quiet knowing, a simple next step. It is the quiet aha of recognition, not the loud eureka of invention. It is the universe whispering your next move, which can only be heard when you have finally stopped shouting your own demands. So how do you cultivate this state? You begin gently, without ambition. The goal is not to achieve a perfectly empty mind that is a myth that creates struggle. The goal is simply to practice creating moments of intentional stillness and to become familiar with the landscape of your own inner world. Carve out 5 minutes in your day. This is not another task to perfect, but a gift of non-doing you give to yourself. Find a place where you can sit comfortably. Set a gentle timer so you are not tempted to check the time. You have only one instruction: to do nothing. Give yourself permission to be unproductive. You do not need to solve, fix, or figure anything out for these 5 minutes. You can close your eyes or simply let your gaze soften and rest unfocused on the floor in front of you. Begin by bringing your awareness to the world of sound. Without labeling or judging, simply notice what you hear: the hum of a distant appliance, the sound of traffic, a bird singing outside your window. Let these sounds be an anchor to the present moment. Now, shift your attention slightly. Listen for the silence that is underneath all the sounds. The space between the bird's notes, the quiet field in which the hum of the fridge exists. Let this background silence be your focus. Your mind will wander. This is not a mistake. It is the nature of the mind. It will drift into planning dinner, replaying a conversation, or worrying about tomorrow. When you notice that your attention has wandered, and that moment of noticing is a moment of pure mindfulness, gently and without any self-criticism, guide your awareness back to the sounds, back to the silence. Each time you do this, you are performing a sacred act. You are strengthening the muscle of presence. You are choosing the quiet of the soul over the noise of the ego. Do not be discouraged by the amount of mental chatter. Simply let it be the weather of your mind, and you are the deep, still lake beneath it. With practice, the storms will begin to feel less personal. The waters will clear. You will discover a profound power in this stillness. It is a portable sanctuary you can access anywhere, anytime. In the midst of a chaotic day, you can take 30 seconds to close your eyes, take one conscious breath, and touch that inner stillness. It is a reset button for the nervous system. As you become more comfortable in this silence, you will begin to notice something remarkable. You will become aware of a part of you that is observing the entire show, the thoughts, the sounds, the restlessness, the peace without being affected by any of it. You are discovering the silent, impartial witness within. As the waters of your mind have settled through the practice of stillness, you begin to perceive not just the silence, but the very nature of the space in which thoughts and feelings arise. A question begins to form, a question of profound significance. Who is it that is aware of the thoughts? Who is it that notices the restlessness, that perceives the silence, that witnesses the entire inner show? In asking this, you are on the brink of discovering the most transformational secret of the inner world. You are about to meet the silent watcher within. The greatest error of the human condition, the fundamental mistake that causes a universe of suffering, is the error of mistaken identity. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to fuse our sense of I with the ever-changing contents of our consciousness. A thought of inadequacy arises in the mind, and we immediately conclude, I am inadequate. A wave of anger passes through the body, and we construct an identity around it. I am an angry person. We achieve something in the world, and we think, I am a success. We fail, and we believe, I am a failure. We attach our core sense of self to these fleeting thoughts, these transient emotions, these temporary roles and states. The consequence of this fusion is that our inner peace becomes utterly dependent on the volatile weather of our own minds. We live in a state of constant instability, our sense of well-being held hostage by the next thought, the next feeling. We walk on an inner tightrope, desperately trying to cultivate only good thoughts and positive feelings, a task which is both impossible and exhausting. This is not freedom. This is a life sentence of anxiety, a constant struggle to manage and police the unmanageable stream of consciousness. But what if this entire premise is wrong? What if you are not the thoughts, but the awareness of the thoughts? What if you are not the emotion, but the consciousness in which the emotion is felt? This is the liberation that the discovery of the silent watcher offers. Let us turn to a new metaphor. Your mind, with all its contents, is like the weather. Some days it is filled with light, fluffy, beautiful clouds of joy, creativity, and love. Other days, it is overcast with the gray, heavy clouds of sadness or boredom. And some days, it is consumed by dark, turbulent, violent thunderheads of rage, fear, and despair. We spend our lives identified with these clouds, believing that we are the weather of the day. If it is stormy, we believe I am the storm. Now, consider the sky. The sky is the vast, open, limitless space in which all weather occurs. The sky allows every cloud to pass through it. It allows the most beautiful, sunlit cloud and the most terrifying thunderhead to exist within its embrace. The sky does not cling to the beautiful clouds, begging them to stay. It does not resist the dark clouds, trying to push them away. It is not harmed, bruised, or stained by even the most violent storm. When the storm has passed, the sky is still there, just as it was before, unchanging, peaceful, and free. The ultimate truth of your being is this: you are not the clouds, you are the sky. Your thoughts, emotions, sensations, and roles are the cloud's transient weather patterns that are just passing through. Your true nature, the silent watcher, is the scythe, vast, open, compassionate awareness that holds all of it. To realize this is to find a foundation of peace that is not dependent on whether the sun is shining in your mind. It is a peace that can hold the deepest sorrow, the most intense anger, because like the sky, it is vaster than any storm. How do you experience this? You are already experiencing it. The watcher is not something you need to create or achieve. It is what you already are. It is the part of you that is reading these words right now. It is the awareness that is hearing this voice. The work is not to find it, but to simply recognize it, to shift your identification from the passing clouds to the ever-present sky. Try this simple experiment. Notice the feeling of the chair supporting your body. Now, shift your attention to the sound of your own breathing. Now, bring to mind the image of a place in nature you love. Consider this. Who is this you that can so effortlessly direct the spotlight of its attention? One moment it is focused on a physical sensation, the next on a sound, the next on a mental image. This director, this silent, choice-making presence that is aware of all these different experiences without being any of them, is the watcher. It is the sky. You have been it all along. To strengthen this recognition, you can learn to use a simple yet profound technique, often called noting or labeling. It is best practiced in your moments of stillness. As phenomena arise in the field of your awareness, you simply apply a soft, gentle, one-word mental label. The label is not an intellectual analysis, it is a simple acknowledgement. You are sitting quietly, and a thought about what you need to do tomorrow appears. Instead of getting lost in the thought, you simply note, inwardly, thinking. In that moment of noting, you have created a space. You are no longer lost in the cloud. You are the sky, observing the cloud of thought. A feeling of sadness or loneliness rises in your chest. Instead of collapsing into it and becoming the story of, "I am sad," you gently note, feeling. You are acknowledging the presence of the cloud, but you are not identifying with it. You hear a dog barking outside. You note, hearing. You feel a pleasant warmth in your hands. You note, sensation. This practice is revolutionary. The label acts as a tiny wedge, gently separating the awareness, you, the sky, from the object of awareness, the thought, the feeling, the cloud. Each time you do this, you weaken a lifetime of conditioning that has fused you to the contents of your mind. You are reclaiming your true identity. You begin to see that your thoughts are just thoughts. They are impersonal, fleeting events in consciousness. They are not absolute truth. They are not you. This realization is the end of tyranny. Your thoughts can no longer hold you captive, because you now see them for what they are. You can observe them with a sense of curiosity, even humor, as you would watch clouds drift by in the sky. As you become established as the watcher, your relationship with yourself changes. A natural compassion arises. You no longer condemn yourself for having negative thoughts or feelings. You see that these are just weather patterns, often arising from old conditioning and pain. As the sky, you can hold the storm of your own pain with a vast, loving tenderness that allows it to finally release and pass. You become your own sanctuary. This unshakable foundation of peace is not a fragile state that needs to be protected from life. It is an indestructible presence that you can carry into the heart of life's greatest challenges. You are the sky, and you are ready for any weather. From this place of stable, compassionate awareness, you can now turn and face the experience of pain itself, not as its victim, but as its wise and gentle witness. From the vast, silent expanse of the sky within, you have learned to watch the clouds of your thoughts and feelings drift by. You have discovered an identity that is not dependent on the weather of your mind. You are the stillness, the awareness, the indestructible peace. Now, established in this newfound stability, you are equipped to face one of the most feared and misunderstood experiences of human life, not as a victim, but as a wise and compassionate investigator. It is time to perform an anatomy of pain. Our entire life is a flight from pain. It is the hidden motivator behind so many of our choices, the ghost that haunts our decisions. We run from it, we numb it, we distract ourselves from it, we build elaborate defenses against it. But in our desperate attempt to avoid pain, we have created a monster out of a messenger. We have confused the message with the suffering. The first step in liberating yourself from the tyranny of pain is to understand that there are two distinct kinds. In the Buddhist tradition, this is known as the teaching of the two arrows. The first arrow is the clean pain of life. It is the inevitable, unavoidable sting of existence. It is the grief you feel when you lose someone you love. It is the physical sensation of a broken bone. It is the sharp pang of disappointment when a cherished dream dissolves. This first arrow is impersonal. It is part of the contract of being alive in a world of impermanence, loss, and change. Life will, at times, shoot this first arrow. There is no escaping it. The great suffering, however, comes from the second arrow. The second arrow is the one we shoot at ourselves in reaction to the first. It is the arrow of our resistance, our storytelling, our blame. The first arrow strikes, and it hurts. Then we immediately fire the second arrow. This shouldn't be happening. Why is this happening to me? My life is ruined now. I will never be happy again. It's all their fault. This is the arrow of judgment. This is the arrow of self-pity. This is the arrow of rumination. The wound from the first arrow might be deep, but it is clean. The poison that creates long-term festering suffering comes entirely from the second arrow. 90% of what we call pain is not the initial event, but the elaborate, agonizing story we build around it. It is self-inflicted. And because it is self-inflicted, it is the only part we have the power to stop. To do this, we must change our entire relationship with pain. We must stop seeing it as an enemy to be vanquished and start seeing it as a powerful, neutral energy that simply needs to be met with awareness. Imagine pain as a fire. Fire is a raw, intense energy. If you are unconscious and fall into it, you will be consumed. You will be thrashed about, burned, and destroyed. This is what happens when we are lost in the story of our pain, the second arrow. We are identified with the flames, believing we are the fire itself. But there is another way to relate to fire. You can approach it with consciousness and respect. You can sit near its warmth, allowing its heat to penetrate you without consuming you. You can use its light to illuminate the darkness. You can use its transformative heat to forge new strength, to purify what is false, to burn away your illusions. The practice is to learn how to sit with the fire of your pain, allowing it to do its sacred work of purification rather than destruction. This is the anatomy lesson. The next time a wave of emotional pain arises, grief, sadness, fear, heartbreak, your training is to meet it as the silent watcher, the wise investigator. Here is the procedure. First, acknowledge and allow. Do not turn away. Simply recognize its presence. In your mind you can say, sadness is here, or I see you, fear. This simple acknowledgement ends the initial act of resistance. You are inviting the messenger in, rather than barring the door. Second, and most critically, consciously drop the story. The mind will immediately want to spin its narrative, to fire that second arrow. I'm sad because she left. She should never have. Now I'll be alone forever. Let go of the story. Release the because. Release the why. Just for this moment, treat the pain as an orphan, without a history and without a future. Your only interest is in the raw, direct experience of it, right now. Third, find the pain in your body. Emotional pain is not an abstract concept. It is a physical reality. It has a location. Close your eyes and scan your body as a compassionate scientist. Where does this sadness live? Is it a hollow ache in the center of your chest? Is the fear a tight, cold knot in the pit of your stomach? Is the anger a hot, electric charge in your neck and shoulders? Locate the epicenter of the physical sensation. Pain demands to be felt, and its primary language is bodily sensation. Fourth, investigate the sensation with neutral curiosity. Your job is not to make it go away, but to know it intimately. As the watcher, bring the soft spotlight of your attention directly onto the sensation and ask, what are its pure qualities? Forget the label sadness or fear. Just explore the raw data. Is it hot or is it cold? Is it heavy or light? Is it sharp and stabbing? Or is it a dull, throbbing ache? Does it have a texture? Is it vibrating, buzzing, contracting, or expanding? Does it have a size, a shape, a color? By engaging with pain on this purely sensory level, you are bypassing the story-making mind. You are meeting the clean pain of the first arrow directly, without firing the second. Finally, breathe into it. Imagine your breath is a current of warm, healing air. Direct that breath into the very center of the physical sensation. Imagine the breath gently surrounding the knot of pain, creating space around it, infusing it with life and oxygen. When we feel pain, our instinct is to contract, to tighten around it, which only traps the energy and intensifies it. Breathing into it is a radical act of expansion and allowing. You are creating the conditions for the energy to move. This entire process is a form of emotional metabolism. Just as your physical body must digest the food you eat to extract nutrients and discard waste, your energetic body must digest your experiences. When you resist pain, numb it, or get lost in the story of it, the energy gets stuck. It becomes undigested emotional material, which then lodges in your system as long-term anxiety, depression, and trauma. It is the source of so much chronic suffering. By meeting the pain as pure sensation and breathing into it, you are allowing your system to metabolize the energy. You are allowing it to move through you, rather than get stuck in you. The fire does its work, burns its fuel, and then, in its own time, it naturally begins to subside. It has delivered its message. It has completed its purpose. By practicing this anatomy of pain, you strip it of its terror. You realize that the raw sensation of clean pain, while intense, is bearable. What was unbearable was the story, the resistance, the self-inflicted second arrow. You transform your relationship with this fundamental aspect of life, seeing it not as a curse, but as a powerful, purifying teacher. Pain becomes a gateway to presence, a catalyst for healing, and a profound reminder of your own resilient, sky-like nature. This new understanding of pain as a form of energy naturally opens the door to a wider exploration of the energetic language that governs your entire inner world. You have sat with the fire of your pain, and in doing so, you have discovered a profound truth. Pain is not a story, it is an energy. From the stable platform of the silent watcher, you were able to feel its heat, its texture, its vibration, without being consumed by it. This insight is a key that unlocks a much larger door. For if pain is energy, what about joy? If grief is a vibration, what about peace? What if every state of consciousness, every thought, every feeling, is not merely a psychological event, but a distinct energetic frequency that you are broadcasting out into the universe? It is time to learn the fundamental language of reality, the language of vibration. At first, the logical mind may resist this idea. It can sound unscientific, abstract, a flight of fancy, but you are already fluent in this language on an intuitive level. You have walked into a room just after an argument has taken place, and even in the silence, you could feel the tension in the air. You have met a stranger and felt an instant sense of ease, a good vibe that made you trust them. You have felt the heavy, oppressive energy of a hospital waiting room and the light, joyful energy of a playground. This is your innate, human ability to perceive the vibrational quality of people, places, and states of being. You have been reading energy your entire life. The work now is to become conscious of this ability and to understand that you are not just a passive receiver of these vibrations, you are a powerful broadcasting station. Everything in the universe, from the hardest stone to the most ethereal thought, is energy in motion. The only difference between things is the rate at which they are vibrating. This creates a spectrum of frequency. At the lower, denser end of the spectrum, we find the energies of shame, guilt, apathy, and fear. Think of how these emotions feel in your body. They are heavy. They are contracting. They pull your energy downward. Shame makes you want to shrink and become invisible. Fear constricts your breathing and freezes your body. This is the felt sense of a low, dense vibration. At the higher, lighter end of the spectrum are the energies of peace, joy, love, and gratitude. Consider how these feel. They are expansive. They are light. They open you up. Love swells in the chest. Joy feels like an upward rushing current that makes you want to laugh and expand. Peace is a wide, open, calm space. This is the physical experience of a high, fast vibration. This is not a moral judgment. Low vibrations are not bad, and high vibrations are not good. They are simply different frequencies on the spectrum of human experience, like different notes on a piano. But it is crucial to understand that the note you are consistently playing determines the music of your life. The most powerful metaphor for understanding this is the tuning fork. A tuning fork is designed to vibrate at one precise frequency when it is struck. Your state of being is a living human tuning fork. A thought, a memory, or an event happens, this is the strike. Your emotional response to that strike determines the frequency at which you begin to vibrate. If you spend your day consumed by thoughts of worry and anxiety, you are vibrating at the frequency of fear. If you spend your day focused on what is wrong with your life and what you lack, you are vibrating at the frequency of scarcity. If you cultivate a feeling of appreciation for what you have, you are vibrating at the frequency of gratitude. Here is the secret of creation, the law that underpins all reality, the principle of sympathetic resonance. If you have a room full of tuning forks of various frequencies, and you strike one tune to the note of C, something magical happens. Across the room, every other tuning fork also tuned to the note of C will begin to vibrate and hum in sympathy, without ever being touched. They respond to the invisible wave of energy from the first fork. The forks tuned to G or F sharp will remain silent. They are not calibrated to that frequency. The universe is a field of infinite potential tuning forks. Your dominant vibrational state is the signal you are constantly broadcasting into this field. The universe, which is neutral and operates on law, not preference, must then bring you experiences, people, and circumstances that resonate with your broadcast. It is not a reward or a punishment. It is physics. If you are consistently vibrating at the frequency of "I am not worthy," the universe cannot bring you experiences that resonate with deep worthiness. It would be a violation of law, like expecting a G fork to respond to a C note. Instead, it will bring you people and situations that confirm your broadcast. A boss who overlooks you, a partner who disrespects you. These experiences are not sent to punish you. They are the universe's perfect, non-judgmental feedback, showing you exactly what frequency you are broadcasting. This is the true meaning of the law of attraction. It is not a magic wand for acquiring things. It is the law of resonance. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. You can repeat affirmations of abundance all day long, but if you feel poor, if your dominant emotional state is one of lack and scarcity, your vibration is lack. And the universe will obediently bring you more experiences that match that feeling. The feeling is the prayer. The vibration is the signal. Your state of being is the cause. The circumstances of your life are the effect. This realization is the ultimate empowerment. It means your work is not to struggle and strive in the external world. Your work is to tend to the garden of your own inner world. Your job is to become a conscious cultivator of your own vibrational state. You are a vibrational architect. How do you do this? You build a toolkit of practices that help you consciously shift your frequency from a lower, contracted state to a higher, more expanded one. Music is perhaps the fastest tool. Music is pure, organized vibration. A sad, melancholic piece of classical music can help you access and process grief. A joyful, high-energy pop song can instantly lift your spirits. Create playlists that are vibrational first aid kits. A playlist for peace, one for joy, one for motivation. Memory is another powerful tool. The subconscious mind does not know the difference between a real event and a vividly imagined one. Close your eyes and recall a memory of a time you felt pure, unadulterated joy. A moment of laughing with a loved one, a moment of awe in nature. Don't just think about it, live it. See what you saw, hear what you heard, and most importantly, feel the feeling in your body right now. As you do, you are literally changing your body's chemistry and your energetic frequency to match that past moment of joy. Nature is a master harmonizer. The earth holds a powerful grounding frequency. Spending time in nature, walking barefoot on the grass, leaning against a tree, listening to the ocean can recalibrate your entire system, pulling you out of the frantic, anxious frequencies of the modern world and back into a state of natural harmony. And then there is gratitude. Gratitude is a master frequency. It is a vibrational antidote to fear and lack. It is impossible to feel genuine gratitude and scarcity at the same time. The practice is to find things, however small, to appreciate, not just as a mental list, but as a felt sense. Feel the gratitude for the warmth of the sun on your skin, for the simple miracle of your own breath, for the taste of clean water. Each moment of genuine gratitude is an act of tuning yourself to the frequency of abundance, of peace, of love. You are a broadcasting tower, sending out a signal every second of every day. That signal is not your words, not your wishes, but the pure, non-verbal vibration of your being. This signal is shaping the world you experience. Your inner state is not a private affair. It is your constant, creative communication with the cosmos. And if your inner world is creating your outer world, then it stands to reason that what you see out there is nothing less than a perfect reflection of what is in here. You have come to understand yourself as a living tuning fork, a broadcasting station of energy, constantly sending a signal out into the universe. You have seen that your inner state of being, the dominant vibration you hold, is the creative force that shapes your reality. We now arrive at the next logical and perhaps most challenging step in this journey of awakening. If your inner state creates your outer world, then the world you perceive out there is not a random collection of separate events and people. It is a perfect, flawless mirror, reflecting the truth of your own consciousness back to you. This is one of the most difficult and resisted truths on the spiritual path. The ego is built on the foundation of separation. It defines itself by comparison, by creating a story of me versus the world. To accept that the world is a mirror is to dissolve that separation, and with it, the ego's entire drama of blame, judgment, and victimhood. Life is not a window through which you observe a separate reality. It is a mirror into which you are constantly gazing. Consider the nature of a perfect mirror. It is completely impartial. It has no agenda, no preference, no judgment. It cannot show you anything other than what is standing before it. If you look in the mirror and see a smudge of dirt on your face, you do not get angry at the mirror. You do not accuse the mirror of being dirty or unfair. You recognize it is providing you with perfect, accurate feedback, and you use that feedback to wipe the smudge from your own face. To yell at the mirror is an act of insanity, yet this is how we live our lives. We are constantly yelling at the reflections. The people and situations in your life are this mirror, and they are particularly potent mirrors when they trigger a strong emotional charge within you. This is the key. If someone's behavior causes a tidal wave of anger, a deep pang of jealousy, or a profound sense of irritation within you, they are not your enemy, they are your teacher. They are a messenger, holding up a flawless mirror to a part of yourself that you have not yet seen or acknowledged. This mirroring works in two primary ways. It reflects your disowned shadow, and it reflects your unrealized gold. Let us first speak of the shadow. The shadow, a term popularized by the great psychologist Carl Jung, represents all the parts of ourselves that we have deemed unacceptable and have therefore repressed into our unconscious. These are the parts we deny we possess: our arrogance, our greed, our anger, our laziness, our capacity for cruelty. Because we have disowned them in ourselves, we become hyper-aware and intensely judgmental of them when we see them in others. This is the mechanism of psychological projection. The person who infuriates you with their arrogance is mirroring back to you a repressed arrogance of your own, perhaps a secret belief that you are better than others. The person whose victim mentality drives you to distraction is holding up a mirror to the subtle ways in which you yourself play the victim, blaming circumstances for your own lack of action. The intensity of your emotional trigger is the clue. If you can observe a behavior with neutral detachment, it is not your mirror. But if it hooks you, if it generates a powerful energetic charge, you can be certain you are looking at a reflection of a disowned piece of yourself. The ego will immediately rise up in fierce denial. I am nothing like that person. I am the opposite. I am the one they are hurting with their behavior. This defensiveness is the ego's desperate attempt to keep the shadow hidden, to maintain its self-image as the good one. But the soul knows the truth. It recognizes itself in the reflection and feels the discomfort of that recognition. The invitation is to have the courage to look past the ego's denial and ask the honest question, where do I do that? In what subtle way does this same pattern exist in me? Perhaps you judge a friend for being flaky and unreliable. The mirror question is not just, am I flaky? But to go deeper. Where am I unreliable to myself? Where do I break the promises I make to my own soul? Where do I say I will meditate, or exercise, or pursue a dream, and then flake on myself? Perhaps you judge a public figure for their greed. The mirror question is, what is my relationship with abundance? Do I have a scarcity mindset? Do I hoard my own energy, my love, my time, out of a fear of not having enough? The mirror does not lie. It simply reveals where the work needs to be done. But the mirror also reflects your light, your potential, your gold. This is the second, more beautiful aspect of the principle. When you find yourself deeply admiring a quality in another person, their courage, their effortless creativity, their freedom, their compassion, you are also looking in a mirror. That quality that you admire so deeply in them is a dormant potential within you. Its beauty resonates with you because your soul recognizes it as a part of its own true nature. If you did not have the potential for great courage within you, you would not be able to recognize or be so moved by it in another. The person you admire becomes a permission slip, a reflection of what is possible for you. Instead of putting them on a pedestal and saying, I could never be like that, the mirror principle invites you to say, thank you for showing me what is waiting to be awakened in me. This transforms admiration from a passive experience into an active inspiration. It turns your heroes into roadmaps. The practical application of this principle will change every relationship in your life, especially the difficult ones. The next time you feel that familiar surge of anger or judgment toward someone, perform this simple exercise. First, pause. Step away from the urge to react, to blame, to criticize. Second, identify the specific trait or behavior that is triggering you. Name it clearly. Their need to always be right is what is making me angry. Third, turn the mirror around. Take a breath and ask with radical, courageous honesty, where is the reflection? Where in my life am I attached to being right? In what situations do I refuse to see another's perspective? How do I display a more subtle version of this need for control? Or, ask it this way, how am I doing this to myself? How do I have an inner tyrant who tells me I must always be right and berates me when I make a mistake? This practice is not about self-blame, it is about self-realization. It is about withdrawing your energy from the futile project of trying to change others and investing it back into the only place you have any real power, yourself. Every person who triggers you is an angel in disguise, sent to deliver a message specifically for you. They are showing you the chains you have placed on yourself. When you can look at the person who angers you most and whisper, "Thank you for showing me where I am not yet free," you have transformed the poison of judgment into the medicine of awareness. You have stopped yelling at the mirror, and you have finally begun to clean your own face. The world ceases to be a battleground and becomes a classroom, a sacred feedback loop, constantly guiding you back to a state of wholeness. And the first step toward that wholeness is to turn and face those parts of yourself that the mirror has so helpfully revealed. You have stood before the mirror of the world and allowed it to do its sacred, unflinching work. It has shown you reflections you did not wish to see, In the arrogance of a coworker, you caught a glimpse of your own subtle superiority. In the victimhood of a friend, you felt the echo of your own excuses. In the anger of a stranger, you recognized the rumbling of your own repressed rage. The natural human instinct, when faced with these reflections, is to turn away in shame, to shatter the mirror, to double down on the denial that such darkness could possibly exist within you. But the path to wholeness does not lie in turning away from the darkness. It lies in turning toward it with courage, compassion, and a lamp in your hand. It is time to embrace your shadow. The shadow self is the term the great psychiatrist Carl Jung gave to the disowned parts of our psyche. It is a vast, hidden continent within you, populated by all the aspects of yourself that you were taught were unacceptable. As a child, you learned quickly which parts of you earned praise and which earned punishment or disapproval. Perhaps your anger was called bad, so you pushed it down into the cellar of your unconscious. Perhaps your vulnerability was met with ridicule, so you locked it away and put on a mask of strength. Your selfishness, your envy, your fear, your raw ambition, your untamed creativity, any part of you that did not fit the narrow mold of the good boy or good girl, was exiled to this inner darkness. The greatest illusion we hold is that this exiled energy simply disappears. It does not. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed or repressed. And repressed energy does not sleep quietly. It festers in the darkness. It builds pressure. It seeks the light. Because it is denied a conscious, healthy expression, it finds unconscious, often destructive, ways to emerge. It leaks out as projection, where you viciously attack in others the very traits you deny in yourself. It erupts in sudden, uncontrolled outbursts of rage or inexplicable melancholy. It drives self-sabotaging behaviors that unravel your best intentions. Living with a repressed shadow is like living in a house with a monster locked in the basement. You spend a tremendous amount of your life force making sure the door stays locked, and you live in constant, low-grade fear of the day it might break free. Our entire society is complicit in this spiritual bypassing, this obsession with being all light. We are told to think positive, to look on the bright side, to curate an image of ourselves that is happy, kind, and successful at all times. But this pursuit of perfection is the enemy of wholeness. True spiritual maturity is not about eliminating your darkness. It is about integrating it. It is about having the courage to descend into your own cellar, not to slay the monster, but to realize the monster is just a lost, wounded, and powerful part of you. Imagine your true self is like the full moon. The moon is always a complete and perfect sphere. It is always whole. Yet, from our vantage point on Earth, we often only see a part of it, a bright crescent, a half moon, or the glorious full moon. The part illuminated by the sun represents your conscious self, your ego parts of you that you accept, that you are comfortable showing the world. The dark side of the moon is your shadow. It is not evil or non-existent. It is simply the part of you that is not currently illuminated by the light of your conscious awareness. It is still there, an essential and inseparable part of your wholeness. It contributes to your gravitational pull, your mystery, your power. To know yourself fully is not to try and live only on the illuminated side, but to acknowledge and embrace the entire sphere. This is the great alchemical secret. The gold is hidden in the shadow. The very energy you have repressed holds the key to your greatest power and authenticity. The anger you have disowned, when brought into the light and integrated, becomes the fuel for healthy boundaries, the passion to fight for justice, the courage to say no. The selfishness you have denied, when consciously embraced, becomes the capacity for radical self-care, the ability to honor your own needs so you are not constantly running on empty. The fear you have hidden, when met with awareness, transforms into wisdom, prudence, and a deep respect for life's challenges. By going down into the cellar, you discover that what you feared was a monster is actually a treasure chest filled with your own squandered power. The goal is not to be a perfect person. The goal is to be a whole person. This work requires courage, and it must be done from the stable ground of the silent watcher you have cultivated. You are not the shadow. You are the compassionate awareness that can hold the shadow. You are the sky, and you are learning to embrace your own dark clouds. The practice is not to act out the shadow, but to acknowledge and understand it. First, you must practice radical honesty. When a shadow emotion arises, a surge of possessive jealousy, a flash of bitter envy, a wave of cold contempt, the practice is to stop. Instead of immediately pushing it away or judging yourself for it, you simply name it. Ah, this is jealousy. Envy is present. I am feeling contempt. You acknowledge its existence without becoming its puppet. You feel the raw energy of it in your body, but you make the conscious choice not to act on it. You do not send the accusatory text. You do not make the cutting remark. You are observing the energy, not being possessed by it. This is the crucial difference between conscious shadow work and unconscious destructive behavior. Second, you give the shadow a voice, safely. The journal is your laboratory. Create a dialogue. From your conscious, watch yourself write a question. Anger, you feel so intense right now. What is it you are trying to protect me from? Then, allow the raw, uncensored voice of that anger to answer. It might write, I'm trying to protect you from being taken for granted, from being invisible. In this dialogue, you are not judging the anger. You are seeking to understand its positive intention. You are treating it like a fierce but misguided guard dog. Behind every shadow aspect is a hidden, legitimate need. The need behind the inner critic's perfectionism is the need for safety and love. The need behind the victim's complaints is the need for support and recognition. The need behind the tyrant's control is the need to feel secure in a chaotic world. The work of integration is to identify that legitimate need and then find a mature, conscious, healthy way to meet it. You learn to give yourself the safety, love, and support you were trying to get through these distorted shadow behaviors. Embracing your shadow is the ultimate act of self-love. It is a profound declaration to yourself and to the universe that you are no longer willing to live a fragmented life. You are ready to call all the exiled parts of yourself home. As you do this, you become more human, not less. You become more authentic, more grounded, more compassionate toward the shadows of others, because you recognize their struggles as your own. You are no longer brittle, no longer terrified of being found out. You are strong, not with the rigid strength of a perfect facade, but with the resilient, flexible strength of a tree that is rooted deep in the dark earth. This journey into wholeness forges a new kind of inner fortitude, a strength born not of control, but of integration. It is the foundation for true self-mastery. Having journeyed inward to embrace the long exiled parts of your shadow, you arrive at a new state of inner wholeness. The civil war is over. You are no longer wasting your precious life force on the project of self-rejection. From this grounded, integrated place, you are now ready to approach one of the most misunderstood and maligned concepts on the path of growth: discipline. For most of us, the very word lands with a thud. It carries the cold weight of punishment, of deprivation, of a tyrannical inner critic cracking a whip. It speaks of the rigid rules of our childhood, of forcing ourselves to do things we hate. This old, shame-based discipline is a tool of the prison guard, designed to keep you in line. But we are here to speak of a new kind of discipline, a discipline that is not an act of self-punishment, but the ultimate act of self-love. The old discipline is about forcing compliance through fear. The new discipline is about expressing devotion through choice. It is the way you honor the promises you make to your soul. It is the bridge you build, plank by plank, between the person you are today and the highest vision of the person you are becoming. It is love in action. To understand this, we must first dissect the fundamental conflict that plays out within us every day, the battle between what we want now and what we want most. The self that wants things now is your impulsive self. It is wired for immediate gratification. It wants the sugary donut, the extra hour of sleep, the mindless scroll through social media, the comfort of avoiding a difficult conversation. It seeks pleasure and avoids discomfort, and its time horizon is about 5 minutes long. It is not evil, it is simply short-sighted. The self that knows what you want most is your wise self, the silent watcher, the architect. This self holds the long view. It wants sustained health, deep inner peace, meaningful work, authentic relationships. It knows that these things are the result of small, consistent choices made over time. Discipline, in its highest form, is simply the practice of aligning your actions with your deepest intentions. It is the capacity to hear the pleas of your impulsive self for immediate comfort, to thank it for its input, and then to lovingly choose the action that serves your highest self. Every time you choose to meditate for 5 minutes instead of picking up your phone, you are casting a vote for the person you want to become. Every time you choose to prepare a healthy meal instead of ordering junk food, you are making a deposit in the bank account of your future well-being. Each act is a declaration. I love my future self more than I desire my present comfort. We often believe that discipline is the enemy of freedom. We imagine it as a cage of rigid schedules and joyless obligation. But this is a profound misunderstanding. Discipline is not the cage. It is the key that unlocks the cage of your own impulses and distractions. A river without banks is not free. It is just a swamp, a stagnant marsh with no power or direction. The banks are the discipline that gives the river its form, its force, its ability to flow powerfully toward the sea. A musician does not find freedom of expression by ignoring musical theory and refusing to practice scales. They find freedom through the disciplined mastery of their instrument. The structure is what makes true creative freedom possible. Without discipline, you are not free. You are a slave to your every whim, to every passing mood, to every external distraction. The most compassionate and powerful way to visualize this new discipline is to see yourself as a gardener and your life as the garden. Your intentions and values, creativity, health, connection are the seeds you wish to plant. The weeds are the habits and distractions that choke the life out of these seeds: procrastination, negative self-talk, mindless consumption. The work of the gardener is discipline. Discipline is not a single heroic act of clearing the entire garden in one weekend. That approach leads only to burnout and a swift return of the weeds. The discipline of the loving gardener is the gentle, consistent, daily practice of tending. It is the act of pulling a few weeds each day. It is the act of giving just enough water to the seeds you want to grow. The gardener does not hate the weeds. They simply recognize that they are not what they wish to cultivate. They pull them calmly, without anger or judgment. Likewise, you do not need to hate your distracting habits. You simply, gently, and repeatedly choose something else. The gardener does not blast the seeds with a fire hose to make them grow faster. They offer a consistent, gentle watering. Likewise, you do not need to overwhelm yourself with a heroic, unsustainable routine. You simply need to show up, day after day, with your small, loving acts of devotion. This is where we so often fail. We decide we want to be disciplined, and in a fit of ego-driven enthusiasm, we create a monumental plan that is destined to fail. I will wake up at 5 a.m., meditate for an hour, run 5 miles, and write 1,000 words, all before work. After 3 days of this, we are exhausted and overwhelmed, and we abandon the entire project, concluding, "I'm just not a disciplined person." The path of loving discipline begins with lowering the bar. It begins with choosing a single, atomic habit that is so small it is almost impossible not to do. The goal is not the immediate result. The goal is to build the identity of a person who shows up for themselves. Consistency is infinitely more powerful than intensity. Meditating for 1 minute every day for a year is a more transformative act than meditating for 2 hours once and then never again. Why? Because with each of the 365 days you sat for that 1 minute, you were casting a vote. You were telling yourself, I am a person who meditates. I am a person who keeps promises to myself. Choose one thing. If you want to write, the discipline is not to write a chapter, but to open your notebook and write one sentence. If you want to exercise, the discipline is not to run a marathon, but to put on your running shoes and step outside your front door. If you want to meditate, the discipline is to simply sit on the cushion. That is it. You build the identity first. The momentum will follow. The gardener who waters a seed for 1 minute every single day will, in time, have a mighty tree. The gardener who drowns the seed once and then abandons it will have only mud. Before you perform your tiny disciplined act, infuse it with its true purpose. Consciously connect it to the language of love. As you sit on your meditation cushion, say to yourself, I am doing this because I love myself, and I am devoted to my own peace. As you put on your running shoes, say, I am doing this because I love my body, and I am devoted to my own vitality. This transforms the act from a chore into a ritual. It is no longer something you have to do, but something you get to do. It is a privilege to tend to the garden of your own life. This form of discipline is the ultimate bridge between the inner world of insight and the outer world of lived experience. It is how you take the profound realizations of your journey, your wholeness, your power, your connection to the universe and make them manifest. It is the steady, loving, daily work that turns a barren patch of ground into a flourishing garden. And in a garden that is so lovingly tended, where the soil is rich and the weeds are few, the most beautiful flower of all can begin to bloom naturally and without effort. That flower is gratitude. In the fertile ground of the garden you have so lovingly tended a space cleared of weeds by awareness and watered by loving disciplinia. Magnificent flower begins to bloom, its fragrance suffusing every corner of your life. This flower is not the result of more effort or striving. It is the natural, effortless expression of a soul that is aligned with itself. This flower is gratitude. We are not speaking here of the polite, conditioned thank you of social etiquette. We are speaking of gratitude as a profound state of being, a seismic shift in consciousness, and arguably the most potent and transformative vibrational frequency you can embody. To understand the power of gratitude, we must first recognize the default setting of the human mind. For millennia, our survival depended on a highly effective threat detection system. Our ancestors were the ones who paid more attention to the rustle in the bushes than the beauty of the sunset. They were wired with a negativity bias tendency to scan for, notice, and remember what is wrong, what is dangerous, what is missing. This mechanism, which once kept us safe from predators, has become a source of chronic unhappiness in the modern world. Our minds are still constantly scanning for problems, the critical email, the looming deadline, the perceived slight, the financial worry. We are caught in a trance of lack, our attention perpetually fixed on what is broken or absent. This keeps us locked in a low, contracted vibrational state of fear and dissatisfaction. Gratitude is the conscious, radical act of breaking this trance. It is a deliberate rebellion against the mind's default programming. It is the choice to intentionally withdraw your focus from what is absent and place it with reverence on what is present. This simple shift is the fulcrum upon which your entire reality can pivot. It is like changing the channel of your awareness. The problem channel is always broadcasting 24/7, but there is another channel, a blessing channel, that is also always available. The practice of gratitude is simply the act of picking up the remote and changing the channel. Let us imagine gratitude as an invisible force, like the wind. You cannot see the wind itself. You cannot hold it or grasp it. You know of its existence only through its effects. You see the leaves on a tree begin to dance. You see the sails of a ship fill and propel it forward across the water. You feel its cool touch on your skin. Gratitude is this unseen force in the landscape of your life. You cultivate it as an internal feeling, a private state of being, but its effects become powerfully visible. The leaves of your mood begin to lift and lighten. The sails of your intentions catch a current of grace and begin to move with less effort. The turbulent waters of your emotional body grow calm. The invisible wind of gratitude rearranges the entire outer world by first transforming your inner world. Herein lies the core principle, the master key. It is impossible to feel genuine, heart-centered gratitude and in the very same moment feel fear. It is impossible to feel gratitude and feel lack. It is impossible to feel gratitude and feel resentment. The frequencies are mutually exclusive. They cannot coexist in the same space at the same time. Gratitude is therefore the ultimate pattern interrupt, the master alchemical frequency. When you find yourself spiraling into anxiety or bitterness, the conscious invocation of gratitude is like striking a great, resonant bell. Its pure, high-frequency tone instantly overrides the dissonant hum of the lower emotions. It doesn't just mask them, it transmutes them. This directly informs the law of resonance we have spoken of. When you inhabit the frequency of gratitude, you are broadcasting a powerful signal to the universe. That signal is not, "I want more stuff." That signal is, "I already have so much. My life is already so full." And the universe, which is a perfect mirror, must reflect this state back to you by bringing you more experiences, people, and circumstances to be grateful for. Gratitude is not a response you have after you receive a gift. Gratitude is the vibrational state that causes the gift to be received. You are attuning yourself to the frequency of universal abundance. But what about the dark times? The logical mind will immediately object. How can I possibly be grateful when I've lost my job, when my heart is broken, when I am in pain? This is a valid and important question. This practice is not about toxic positivity or denying the reality of your suffering. The pain is real, the grief is real, the fear is real. Gratitude in the dark is not about pretending the storm isn't raging. It is about finding the anchor that can hold you steady within the storm. Even in the deepest crisis, there are micro-blessings that are also simultaneously true. Your heart is broken, and the warmth of the blanket wrapped around you is also true. You are afraid for the future, and the taste of the warm tea in your hands is also true. Your world has been turned upside down, and the fact that your lungs are still drawing breath in and out is also profoundly true. To find gratitude for these simple present moment realities is not to deny your pain. It is a radical act of defiance against despair. It is to declare that even in the wreckage, there is still life, there is still presence, there is still something to hold on to. This practice becomes a lifeline, a way to keep your head above the turbulent waters of sorrow. The practice itself is simple in its form, but its effects are boundless. It is the ritual of creating a gratitude sanctuary at the beginning and end of each day. When you wake, before you reach for your phone, before the mind begins its frantic planning, pause. Name 3 specific things you are grateful for. Do not be general. My family is nice, but too abstract. Be specific. I am grateful for the specific way my child's hair smelled when I hugged them goodnight. I am grateful for the memory of my friend's laughter during our phone call yesterday. I am grateful for the profound comfort and safety I feel in my bed right now. Specificity brings the feeling to life. As you name each one, this is the crucial step. Feel it. The list is just the menu. The feeling is the nourishment. Close your eyes. Recreate the moment in your mind. Let the actual, physical sensation of gratitude and appreciation fill your chest. Let it soften your entire body. Let it bring a gentle smile to your face. This feeling is the prayer. This feeling is the vibrational shift. By starting your day in this frequency, you are setting the tone for everything that follows. Repeat this ritual before you sleep. Review your day and find 3 new specific things. Perhaps it was a stranger's kindness, a delicious meal, a moment of beauty you noticed on your walk. This practice retrains your brain. You are consciously teaching it to scan your day for what went right, overriding its programming to only focus on what went wrong. You fall asleep marinating in the frequency of grace. Gratitude is the ultimate state of allowing, of receptivity. It is the quiet, confident knowing that you are supported by a universe of benevolence. It dissolves the illusion of separation and connects you to the intricate web of life that sustains you in every moment. As you consistently cultivate this state, you are not just feeling better. You are becoming a different person. You are becoming a person who trusts the flow of life, a person who sees abundance everywhere. This experiential trust, born from the daily practice of gratitude, forges a new kind of faith not in blind belief, but in the proven, transformative power of your own consciousness. The garden of your inner world is now tended with a loving hand. You have welcomed the shadow, disciplined your impulses with devotion, and cultivated the fragrant bloom of gratitude. Through this consistent inner work, you have gathered more than just insights. You have gathered evidence. You have seen for yourself that a shift in perspective changes your experience. You have felt the peace that follows surrender. You have experienced the clarity that arises from stillness. You have witnessed how a state of gratitude can transform your day. This is not theory anymore. It is your lived experiential data. And this data is the raw material from which you will now forge the most essential tool for the next stage of your journey. Trust in the unseen. When we speak of trust or faith, we are not speaking of a blind belief in a dogma or an external deity. That is a faith that is given, often in childhood, and can be easily shattered by life's harsh realities. We are speaking of a trust that is earned. It is forged. It is the trust a master carpenter has in her tools, not because she read about them in a book, but because she has used them for years. She knows the heft of the hammer, the bite of the saw. Her trust is born from experience. Your trust is the same. It is the dawning, unshakable confidence in the principles you have been practicing, because you have seen them work in the laboratory of your own consciousness. The primary obstacle to this trust is the ego's insatiable demand for certainty. The logical mind wants a guarantee before it takes a risk. It wants to see the entire path, from beginning to end, complete with a signed contract from the universe that guarantees a successful outcome. It wants to know what lies in the fog before it will take a single step. And so, it keeps you waiting, paralyzed at the edge of your own life, perpetually scanning for a certainty that will never come. Because life is, by its very nature, uncertain. To demand certainty is to demand that the river of life stop flowing, and so you remain stuck on the bank, a prisoner of your own need for a map. The journey of trust requires a completely different approach. Imagine you are standing at the beginning of a path that leads into a dense, swirling fog. You know your destination lies somewhere within that fog, but you can see no more than a few feet ahead of you. The path vanishes into the white unknown. The fearful, logical mind says, "It is foolish to proceed. I cannot see the dangers. I cannot see the end. I will wait here until the fog lifts." But the fog may not lift for a lifetime. The wise self, the soul, operates from a different understanding. It knows that it doesn't need to see the destination. It only needs to see the next step. It looks down and sees that its own inner light, the lamp of its own presence, illuminates the ground directly in front of it. It can see where to place its foot for the very next step. Trust is the act of taking that step. It is the courage to lift your foot from the solid ground of the known and place it down into the uncertainty of the immediate future, having faith that when your foot lands, the light will move with you, and the next step after that will be revealed. This is the great secret. The path is not waiting for you, fully formed, in the fog. The path is created by your walking. The universe does not roll out the red carpet for you and then invite you to walk upon it. It meets you at the point of action. It lays the next paving stone down in the exact moment your foot is about to land. Faith is not a passive, hopeful feeling. Faith is a verb. It is the artist beginning a masterpiece with a single brushstroke, trusting the inspiration for the next stroke will arise. It is the entrepreneur launching a venture from a powerful vision, trusting the resources and solutions will appear as they are needed. It is you choosing to act on the quiet, intuitive nudge from your soul, rather than waiting for the loud, anxious permission of your fear. So how do we practice this? How do we take this forged trust and make it a dynamic force in our lives? We learn to act as if this is not about being fake or inauthentic. It is a powerful technique of embodiment, a way of rehearsing for your future self. It is consciously choosing to align your physical and emotional state with the reality you wish to create before that reality has fully manifested. Begin by identifying a state of being you wish to inhabit more fully. Perhaps it is confidence, perhaps it is abundance, perhaps it is trust itself. Now, ask the magical question. If I were already a person who was supremely and unshakably confident, how would I enter this meeting? How would I hold my shoulders? What would be the tone of my voice? How would I respond to this criticism? Contemplate the answer, and then, as an experiment, embody it. Pull your shoulders back, lift your chin, speak more slowly from a place of centered calm. This is not faking it. This is activating the neurological and energetic circuits of confidence within you. You are sending a clear signal to your own body and to the universe. This is who I am now. The mind and body are a feedback loop. By changing your physiology, you change your psychology. By acting confident, you begin to feel confident. Let's apply this to trust. Ask, if I were a person who deeply and truly trusted that the universe supports me, what choice would I make right now? Would I make the choice based on fear and the need for security? Or would I make the small, brave choice that my intuition is calling for? And then, you take that small, brave step. You send the email. You sign up for the class. You make the phone call. You are acting as if you are supported. And in doing so, you are giving the universe the channel through which to support you. You are stepping into the fog, allowing the next stone to appear. This practice of acting as if is you, the conscious creator, striking the tuning fork of your desired reality. By choosing to embody the feeling of confidence, you begin to vibrate at that frequency. The universe, bound by the law of resonance, then begins to bring you experiences that match your new signal. People respond to you with more respect. Opportunities appear that align with a confident person. The world reorganizes itself around your new state of being. Eventually, the acting falls away, because it is no longer an act. It has become your authentic nature. This is the engine of co-creation. It is the dynamic interplay between your inner state and your outer world. You have done the work to cultivate a state of gratitude, peace, and wholeness. Now, you forge that inner state into trust. And you express that trust through conscious action, by stepping into the fog of the unknown, guided only by the light of your own feet. As you walk this path, trusting the unseen, you begin to notice that the universe is not chaotic, but lawful. You see that your actions have clear and direct consequences. You begin to understand the perfect, intelligent, and impersonal feedback system that governs all of creation. You are ready to understand the elegant machinery of karma. Karma as the teacher. This is a concept that has been distorted by fear for centuries, painted as a cosmic system of reward and punishment, a vengeful God in the sky keeping a ledger of your rights and wrongs. But the universe is not a courtroom, and you are not on trial. The universe is a place of impeccable physics, both external and internal. Karma is not a moral law, it is a spiritual law of physics, as neutral and as reliable as gravity. It is the law of energy return. It simply states that every action, every thought, every intention is a cause that must and will have an effect. The energy you broadcast into the world must and will find its way back to you. It is not punishment, it is feedback. It is not a sentence, it is a lesson. It is the most patient, and most effective teacher you will ever have. The internal conflict here is potent because the ego loves the idea of karma when it applies to others. We see someone who has wronged us suffer a misfortune, and a secret, dark part of us whispers, "Good, that's their karma." But when misfortune befalls us, the ego scrambles for excuses. It blames the world. It cries out at the injustice. It refuses to look in the mirror and ask the honest question, what energy did I send out that has now returned to my doorstep? The desire to escape the consequences of our own past actions is a powerful human instinct. We want grace for ourselves and justice for others. We want to believe that our anger was justified, our gossip was harmless, our selfishness was necessary. We wish to be exempt from the very law we so readily apply to the rest of the world. But the universe does not play favorites. It is an impartial mirror. The core message, the liberating truth, is that karma is not a final judgment, but a magnificent opportunity to recalibrate. If you send out a frequency of anger and resentment, the universe does not judge you as a bad person. It simply reflects that anger and resentment back to you in the form of frustrating circumstances and difficult people, not to punish you, but to show you, with perfect clarity, what you are creating. The lesson is not, you are bad for being angry. The lesson is, the frequency of anger creates a painful reality. Do you wish to continue broadcasting it? This is an act of profound compassion. The universe is a loving teacher, holding up a mirror and saying, look, this is the world you are building with your energy. Is it what you truly want? This is where your power lies. You are not a helpless recipient of karmic debt. You are an active participant in a dynamic energy system. You can change your future karma right now, in this very moment. Because in this very moment, you are planting the seeds for a future harvest. The past is done. The seeds have been sown, and some of those harvests may be difficult. You must tend to them with acceptance. But your hands are not empty. You are holding the seeds of today. This is the metaphor of the farmer. Imagine your life as a vast field. The harvest you are reaping today, whether it is one of abundance or scarcity, of joy or sorrow, is the direct result of the seeds you planted last season, last year, a decade ago. You cannot go back and unplant those seeds. The harvest is what it is. You must accept it. But your power is not in the past. Your power is in the soil under your feet, right now. In this present moment, you are the farmer. You are deciding what to plant for the next season. With every thought of gratitude, you plant a seed of abundance. With every act of anonymous kindness, you plant a seed of grace. With every moment you choose forgiveness over resentment, you plant a seed of peace. You are constantly, with every breath, engaged in the act of farming your future. Do not curse the bitter fruit of a past harvest. Learn from it. Let it teach you which seeds no longer serve you. And then, with intention and with love, turn your attention to the sacred ground of the now and begin to plant a different garden. This is why the practical suggestion is not to fearfully try and pay off old debts, but to actively generate a new energy. Practice positive karma. When you do a good deed for someone without any possibility of them finding out, you are sending a pure, untainted signal of generosity into the universe. You are becoming the energy you wish to receive. The most powerful practice of all is to send a loving thought to someone who has wronged you. This is not for them, it is for you. When you hold on to resentment, you are bound to that person in a negative karmic loop. You are drinking poison and expecting them to suffer. By consciously sending them a thought of peace or healing, you are not condoning their actions. You are snipping the energetic cord that binds you to that pain. You are changing your own frequency. You are telling the universe, I no longer wish to participate in the energy of conflict. I choose the energy of peace. And by the law of karma, that peace must and will find its way back to you. It is no longer about them. It is about you, the farmer, choosing to plant a flower where a weed once grew. As you begin to master this understanding, you will see that karma is not a random series of events, but a predictable patterned flow. This is the entry point to understanding the very rhythm of life itself, the recognition of its great and beautiful cycles. Recognizing the cycles, the law of karma, of cause and effect, does not operate in a vacuum. It is not a series of disconnected, linear events. Instead, it is the engine that drives a much grander, more elegant pattern. It is the mechanism through which the great rhythms of existence play out in your own life. Once you begin to see the feedback loops of karma, you start to notice that they are woven into repeating patterns, into seasons of being. Our modern world has sold us a dangerous and exhausting myth. The myth of linear progress. We are taught that life should be a constant, upward trajectory. Every day should be more productive, every year more successful, every moment filled with more energy than the last. We worship the graph that only goes up and to the right, and we apply this impossible standard to our own inner lives. This is the root of so much unspoken anxiety, the feeling that you are perpetually behind, that you are not doing enough, that you are somehow failing at the project of living. But look around you. The universe does not operate in straight lines. The tide comes in and the tide goes out. The moon waxes and it wanes. The galaxy spins the planet's orbit. Your own lungs expand and contract with every breath. All of life, from the cosmic to the cellular, moves in cycles. Expansion and contraction. Expression and assimilation. Doing and being. Why would you, a child of this universe, be the sole exception to this fundamental law? The internal conflict is the clash between this natural, cyclical reality and our rigid, linear expectation. We expect our lives to be an endless summer. We want the long, bright days of high energy, visible growth, and effortless success to last forever. And so, when our inner landscape inevitably shifts, when the days grow shorter and a chill appears in the air, we panic. We see it not as a natural transition, but as a personal failure. This is the arrival of the inner winter, the season of low energy, of introspection, of stillness. And because we have been taught to fear it, we resist it with all our might. We drink more coffee, we push through the exhaustion, we berate ourselves for being lazy or unmotivated. We try to force summer blooms in the middle of a blizzard, and in doing so, we not only exhaust our vital energy, but we miss the profound gifts and purpose of the season we are actually in. The core message is this: winter is not the end. Winter is not a sign of failure. The winter of your soul is a sacred and necessary phase for deep rest, for integration, and for the quiet germination of the seeds that will become your future spring. You do not fight your winter, you honor it. You do not curse its darkness, you find solace in its quiet embrace. You trust that beneath the frozen, seemingly barren surface, your roots are growing deeper, anchoring you, nourishing you, preparing you for the inevitable return of the light. The wisest among us do not live in one season. They learn to live in harmony with all four. Think of your own life in these terms. There is the spring. This is the season of new beginnings. It is the thrill of a new idea, the spark of a new project, the tentative unfurling of a new relationship. The energy is fresh, exciting, but also vulnerable. It is the time for planting seeds, for taking those first courageous steps out of the quiet of winter and into the light of new possibility. You don't harvest in the spring, you plant, you trust the process. Then comes the summer. This is the season of peak energy, of expansion and growth. The sun is high in the sky, and your efforts begin to show visible results. It is a time of doing, of creating, of being out in the world. The seeds you planted in the spring are now reaching for the sun. This is a glorious, expressive time, but it also demands the most energy. The danger of summer is believing it will last forever, of burning yourself out under the midday sun, forgetting that this too is a phase that will naturally transition. After summer comes the autumn. This is the season of harvest, but also the season of letting go. It is a time of immense beauty and maturity. You reap the rewards of your spring planting, and your summer efforts. You gather the wisdom, the accomplishments, the lessons learned. But just as importantly, autumn teaches the grace of release. The trees do not cling to their leaves in fear. They let them go in a brilliant final blaze of color, knowing it is necessary to conserve energy for the coming cold. What in your life needs to be harvested and celebrated, and what needs to be released, allowed to fall away so that you can preserve your life force for what truly matters. And then, inevitably, comes the winter, the great pause, the sacred stillness. To the untrained eye, winter looks like death. The world is barren, cold, and quiet. But this is an illusion. Winter is a time of immense, unseen activity. It is the season of going inward. It is when the energy of life retreats from the outer world of branches and leaves and descends into the deep, dark wisdom of the roots. It is a time for integration, for processing the lessons of the year. It is a time for sleep, for dreaming, for replenishing the wellspring of your being. Without a true, honored winter, your spring will be weak, your summer unsustainable. The practical suggestion is to become a naturalist of your own soul. Keep a journal, not just of your actions, but of your energy. Begin to observe your own cycles. When do you feel the fresh, creative energy of spring? When are you in the full, expansive power of your summer? When do you feel the natural pull to harvest and let go, the melancholy beauty of autumn? And most importantly, when does your soul call for winter? Learn to recognize the signs: a desire for more sleep, a need for solitude, a disinterest in external stimulation, a feeling of being quiet and fallow. When you feel this, do not fight it. Honor it. Give yourself permission to rest without guilt. Say no to extra commitments. Spend time in nature. Read. Listen to music. Do nothing. Explain to yourself that you are not being unproductive. You are in a vital phase of your creative cycle. You are in winter. You are gathering the strength for the thaw. By observing these cycles, you stop being a victim of them. You no longer feel ambushed by periods of low energy. Instead, you come to expect them, to welcome them, to use them for their intended purpose. You learn that your creativity, your strength, and your wisdom are not produced on a linear factory assembly line. They are grown in the soil of your being, a soil that requires all 4 seasons to remain fertile. This intimate, respectful partnership with your own natural rhythms is the very essence of empowerment. It is the shift from fighting against the current of your life to consciously flowing with it. This is the first great step in moving from a position of victimhood to becoming a true and powerful co-creator with the universe. From victim to co-creator. We have walked a long road together on this inner journey. We began with the faint but persistent splinter of discontent, the soul's whisper that there must be more to life. We traveled through the suffocating echo chamber of blame and felt the first crack of light as the question shifted from why me to for me. We faced the great resistance, the ego's primal fight against what is, and we learned the profound strength in the alchemy of surrender. We discovered the architect of our own prison and found the power in stillness, the silent watcher within. We dissected the anatomy of pain, learned the language of vibration, and stood before the mirror of the world. We have learned to embrace the shadow, to wield discipline as an act of love, to harness the power of gratitude, to trust the unseen, to understand karma as a teacher, and to honor the sacred cycles of our own being. Each of these steps was a preparation. Each was a lesson designed to lead you to this single, pivotal, life-altering realization. The time has come to consciously transition from the role of the victim to the role of the co-creator. This is the grand synthesis of everything you have learned. To be a victim is to believe that life is a series of random, often malicious events that happen to you. It is to see yourself as a cork tossed on a merciless ocean, powerless against the waves. But everything we have explored challenges this identity at its very core. If every event happens for you, to teach you, to awaken you, then it cannot be a random attack. If karma is simply a neutral feedback loop and the seasons of your soul are a natural, purposeful rhythm, then you are not a target of cosmic injustice. You are a student in a grand, benevolent school. This understanding completely dismantles the logical foundation of victimhood, and yet the pull to remain a victim can be incredibly strong. This is the internal conflict we must now face with unflinching honesty. There is a strange and seductive comfort in being the victim. It absolves you of all responsibility. If the world is against you, then your failures are not your fault. Your unhappiness is justified. There is a certain purity in it, a clear identity as the wronged one, which can garner sympathy and excuse you from the hard work of change. The ego loves this story. It is a simple story, a story where you are the blameless hero in a cruel world. To step out of this role is to step into a vast and sometimes intimidating field of power and responsibility. This is the choice: the comfortable, powerless cage of the victim, or the demanding, boundless freedom of the co-creator. The core message, the truth that will set you free, is this: you do not control everything that happens in the universe, but you have absolute, sovereign, 100% control over the meaning you assign to those events and the response you choose to generate. Read that again. Let it sink into your bones. This is the space where your creative power lives. It is the sacred pause between stimulus and response. The external world can present you with a stimulus, a job loss, a medical diagnosis, a betrayal, a criticism. The victim mentality is to go directly from that stimulus into a programmed, unconscious reaction: fear, anger, despair, blame. The co-creator, however, holds that stimulus in the space of their awareness. They feel the initial emotional charge. They honor it, but they do not become it. And in that sacred space, they consciously choose their response. They decide what this event will mean. A job loss is not just a disaster, it is an opportunity to find your true calling. A diagnosis is not just a death sentence, it is a powerful call to live more fully and authentically than ever before. A betrayal is not just a wound, it is a masterclass in self-love and setting boundaries. Do you see the shift? The events do not change. The facts remain the facts. But you, through the divine power of your consciousness, alchemize the meaning of the event, and in doing so, you change your entire reality. This is where we embrace the metaphor of the weaver at the loom. Imagine the universe, in its infinite intelligence, provides you with the threads. These threads are the events, the people, the circumstances of your life. Some threads are soft and shimmering, like gold and silk. These are moments of joy, love, and success. Other threads are coarse, dark, and scratchy, like burlap and thorn. These are moments of pain, loss, and challenge. The victim looks at the pile of threads and sees only a tangled, chaotic mess. They lament the number of dark threads and curse their luck, letting the pile grow ever more knotted and unmanageable. The co-creator, however, approaches the loom with reverence. They know they did not choose every thread, but they know with absolute certainty that they are the weaver. It is their hands, their vision, their intention that will determine the final tapestry. The co-creator picks up a shimmering golden thread of joy and weaves it with gratitude, making its beauty shine. Then, they pick up a coarse, dark thread of sorrow. They do not discard it. They do not try to pretend it is gold. They honor it for what it is. They know that this dark thread, when woven skillfully, will provide the contrast that makes the golden threads even more brilliant. It will create depth, pattern, and strength in the tapestry. They know that a tapestry made only of gold would be a flat, uninteresting, blinding sheet. It is the interplay of light and shadow that creates a masterpiece. Your life is this tapestry. The dark threads are not a punishment. They are a vital part of the design. So, the practical application is to consciously become the weaver of your own story. This is the practice of story reframing. I invite you to do this now. Bring to mind a story from your past in which you have consistently cast yourself as the helpless victim. Perhaps it's a story of a difficult childhood, a painful breakup, or a career failure. Feel the familiar sting of it. Now, take a deep breath, step back from the emotion, and look at it with the eyes of a co-creator. Ask yourself new questions. Do not ask, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, ask, "What strength was forged in me because of this fire? What vital lesson about myself or the world did this experience teach me? Who did I have to become in order to survive this? And how can that version of me serve me today? How can I tell this story not as a tale of my weakness, but as a testament to my resilience?" This is not about denial. It is not about pretending the pain wasn't real. The pain was real. The wound was real. The reframing is about consciously choosing to focus on the healing, the wisdom, and the strength that grew around that wound. You are claiming your hero's journey. You are taking the pen from the hand of fate and writing the next chapter yourself. As you step fully into this role of the weaver, the co-creator, a new question naturally arises. If you are to choose your response, if you are to decide how to weave these threads, how do you know the right way? How do you choose the response that serves your highest good? How do you discern the pattern that the universe is trying to create through you? You are not expected to do this with your logical mind alone. Your intellect can only see a tiny fraction of the grand design. To be a true co-creator, you must be in partnership with the intelligence of life itself. You need a guide. You need an inner compass that is always pointing toward your true north. Fortunately, you were born with one. It is a quiet, unerring voice inside of you, a felt sense that resonates with truth. It has been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the noise of the ego and the fear of the mind. This guidance system, this direct line to the wisdom of the cosmos, is your intuition. And learning to hear its whisper is the next step in our journey. The whisper of intuition. And so you stand at the loom of your life, the threads of circumstance in your hand, having claimed your power as the weaver, the co-creator. You have accepted the responsibility and the freedom that this role entails. But a question arises, a humble and essential question. How do I know how to weave? Which pattern am I meant to create? Which response, among the infinite possibilities, is the one that aligns with my highest path? The intellect, the logical mind, will rush in with answers. It will create spreadsheets of pros and cons. It will replay past mistakes. It will project future catastrophes. It will offer you 1,000 compelling and contradictory reasons for every choice. To listen only to this voice is to be a weaver who is paralyzed by the sheer number of possible patterns, forever analyzing, never creating. But you are not alone in this task. The co-creator is never alone. You have a guide, an inner compass, a direct line to the infinite intelligence of the universe that is already flowing through you. This guide does not shout, it does not argue, it does not use logic. It whispers, "This is your intuition." Our modern world has trained us out of listening. We are taught to trust only what is external, what can be measured, quantified, and proven. We trust the expert, the data, the algorithm. We have been conditioned to believe that the mind, with its frantic, noisy calculations, is the seat of our intelligence. And so, we have forgotten how to hear the quietest, wisest voice of all. The first and most crucial task of the co-creator is to learn to distinguish the two primary voices within. The voice of fear, which speaks through the egoic mind, and the voice of truth, which speaks through intuition. They feel entirely different in the body. They have a different texture, a different timbre. Learning to tell them apart is the master skill. The voice of fear is loud. It is urgent, demanding, and frantic. It feels like pressure, a tightness in your chest, or a chaotic buzzing in your head. It is almost always rooted in the past or the future, replaying old wounds or rehearsing new anxieties. It uses words of judgment and limitation. You should, you must, you can't. What if this happens? It is repetitive, like a skipping record, hammering the same worry into your consciousness over and over again. It seeks to control, to manage every outcome, because it is terrified of the unknown. It is the voice that creates a 10-point plan for a situation that has not even occurred. It feels like static, like a crowded room where everyone is shouting. The voice of intuition is the opposite in every way. It is quiet. It is often just a single thought, a simple image, or a subtle feeling that arises from a place of stillness. It is calm. Even if it guides you toward a difficult action, the guidance itself feels peaceful, neutral, and clear. It is not laden with emotional charge. It is non-repetitive. It speaks its truth once, with quiet confidence, and then falls silent. It trusts that you have heard it. It resides purely in the present moment, offering guidance for the now. It never uses words of judgment. It simply states what is, or points the way forward. It feels like clarity, like resonance, like a deep and simple yes or no. It feels like expansion, like a sudden opening, a sense of rightness that you may not be able to explain, but you can feel in your very cells. It is the whisper beneath the roar of the mind. The great internal conflict is the battle between the mind's demand for proof and the soul's quiet knowing. Your intuition may whisper, "Leave this job." Your mind will immediately scream, "But why? It's secure. The economy is uncertain. What will people think? We need a plan first." Your intuition may gently suggest, "Trust this person." Your mind will counter, "But we don't know them. What's their agenda? Remember what happened last time you trusted someone?" The mind demands reasons. Intuition offers only resonance. This is the chasm you must learn to leap across. It is an act of supreme trust, not in an external force, but in the wisdom that is already encoded within you. Here we can use the metaphor of the sand and the wind. Your logical mind, with its endless stream of thoughts, worries, plans, and analyses, is like a vast desert of sand. Each thought is a single grain. On its own, a grain of sand is nothing, but together they can create a landscape. An external opinion, a piece of bad news, a fearful projection, these are like gusts of wind that can whip the sand into a blinding storm, leaving you disoriented and unable to see the path. You become lost in the swirling chaos of your own thoughts. Intuition, however, is the wind itself. It is invisible, formless, and cannot be grasped or contained. You cannot hold the wind in your hand. You cannot analyze its substance, but you can feel its undeniable presence. You can feel its direction. The goal is not to eliminate the sand. The mind is a useful tool, but to stop being lost in its storms. The goal is to quiet yourself enough to feel the direction of the prevailing wind. The practical application, then, is to create moments of stillness where you can feel this wind. It is to learn to consult your body, for your body is the oracle of your intuition. It cannot lie. When you face a decision, big or small, perform this simple ritual. Find a quiet space, even if just for a minute. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths, breathing out the noise of the world. Place a hand over your heart or over your gut, wherever you feel your center to be. Now, bring your question to mind. Don't ask your mind for the answer. Pose the question to your body, to the intelligence that animates you, and then let it go. Simply listen with your skin, with your bones. Pay attention to the very first sensation that arises. Does your body feel a sense of opening, of lightness, of expansion? Does it feel like there is suddenly more space inside your chest? This is the feeling of a yes. This is alignment. Or, does your body feel a sense of tightening, of constriction, of dread? Does a knot form in your stomach? Does your throat feel tight? This is the feeling of a no. This is resistance. This is your body's wisdom telling you that this path is not for you. Do not look for a reason. Trust the feeling. The feeling is the reason. With this tool, you are complete. With this ability to listen to your inner compass, you are no longer weaving in the dark. You are in direct communion with the intelligence that designs galaxies and unfurls ferns. You have learned to take responsibility for your energy, to understand the loving feedback of the universe, to honor your natural rhythms, and now to receive clear guidance. The journey of the student is coming to an end. You are no longer just learning the craft of creation. You are now ready to fully embody it, to merge with the process itself, to realize that the one who weaves and the tapestry being woven are, and always have been, one and the same. You are ready to see yourself not just as the artist, but as the masterpiece in progress. The artist and the masterpiece. And so we arrive at the final threshold. We have journeyed inward, through the clamor of the ego and the storms of resistance, to this quiet, luminous space, where the whisper of intuition can be clearly heard. With this inner compass now in hand, a profound transformation occurs. The search ends, the striving ceases. The frantic need to fix, to solve, to achieve, or to become something more than what you are, simply falls away. You have spent your life believing you were a traveler on a long and arduous journey toward a distant destination. But here, at the heart of stillness, you realize the truth. The journey was a circle, and the destination is the very ground on which you have always stood. You were never seeking a truth in the distance. You were awakening to the truth that you are. This is the final and most beautiful realization. You are not just the artist of your life. You are, and always have been, the masterpiece itself, in a constant state of becoming. This is the state where conflict dissolves, because the very foundation of conflict, the illusion of separation, has crumbled. Until now, there has been a subtle but powerful sense of duality. It was you versus your problems, you versus your past, you, a brave soul navigating the treacherous landscape of your life. But this separation was a trick of the mind. There is no you that is separate from your life. You are not a boat sailing upon the river of existence. You are a current within the river itself. The doer and the deed, the thinker and the thought, the feeler and the feeling, they all merge into one seamless, flowing process. You do not live life. Life lives through you. You do not create your reality as a detached architect designing a building from afar. You are the very substance from which your reality is built. The breath that fills your lungs is the breath of the cosmos. The intelligence that sparks a thought in your mind is the same intelligence that spins the galaxies. There is no separation. There is only the grand, unified, and mysterious unfolding of life, expressing itself, for a brief and glorious moment, as you. Let us hold the most intimate metaphor of all, that of the sculptor. Imagine a sculptor standing before a great, unformed block of marble. Their task is to chip away everything that is not the statue, to reveal the form of beauty that sleeps within the stone. In our old understanding, you were the sculptor and your life was the marble. But now, see with new eyes. See that the sculptor's hands are made of that very same marble. The chisel they hold is also carved from it. The vision in the sculptor's mind is not an external idea imposed upon the stone, but an inner resonance, a secret dream that the stone itself wishes to express. With every tap of the chisel, with every piece of marble that falls away, the sculptor is not merely revealing a statue, they are revealing themselves. The act of creation is an act of self-discovery. All the pain, all the challenges, all the so-called mistakes and failures of your past, these were not flaws in the marble. These were the necessary blows of the chisel, the pieces that had to fall away to reveal the exquisite form of who you are becoming. The universe has been lovingly, patiently sculpting you all along, and the force guiding the chisel has been the gravitational pull of your own highest self. The masterpiece was always the potential within you. The process of living is the act of revealing it. With this understanding, the frantic search for purpose finds its final, peaceful resolution. You may have thought your purpose was a specific job, a role to play, a grand achievement to unlock in the future. But this is the mind's linear obsession once more. The masterpiece does not find its meaning only when it is finished and placed in a museum. Its meaning is in every moment of its creation. Your purpose, therefore, is not a destination. Your purpose is the quality of consciousness you bring to this very moment. Your purpose is not to finish the sculpture of your life. Your purpose is to be wholly, divinely present in the act of sculpting it, right now. The purpose of your life is simply your life. This breath, the feeling of the air on your skin, the sound of these words. This is it. This is the sacred ground you were searching for. And so, the ultimate practical application is not a new technique or a complex practice. It is the simplest and most profound act of all, to live with radical presence, to bring the fullness of your awareness to the mundane, and in doing so, to transfigure it into the sacred. When you are washing the dishes, you are not just washing the dishes. You are the universe experiencing the sensation of warm water, the smoothness of ceramic, the scent of soap. You are engaged in a sacred act of purification. Every sensation, felt fully, is a brushstroke. When you are walking, you are not just moving from one place to another. You are the earth, feeling the press of your own foot. You are the conscious witness to the play of light and shadow, the rhythm of your own movement. Every step, taken with presence, is a line drawn on the canvas. When you listen to another person, you are not just waiting for your turn to speak. You are offering the holy space of your awareness, becoming a vessel for their truth to be seen. Every moment of true listening paints the masterpiece with colors of compassion and connection. This is how the great work is done, not in grand, heroic gestures, but in a continuous sequence of moments, each one met with the totality of your being. You have now moved beyond the question of, "What should I do?" to the deeper inquiry of, "What is life expressing as me in this moment?" You have shifted from a person to whom things happen to a living embodiment of the creative principle of the universe. There is nothing to fear, because you are not separate from that which unfolds. There is nothing to prove, because you are already a perfect expression of what is. You are the artist, marveling at the beauty of the art that is flowing through you. You are the masterpiece, a living sculpture of light and shadow, forever being perfected, forever complete. We have arrived at the end of our journey together, but at the true beginning of yours. We have walked the path from the shadow of victimhood into the full light of co-creation. We have learned to see the world not as a battlefield of random events, but as a wise and benevolent teacher, communicating through the language of our lives. The journey asked you to face your deepest pains and your most persistent fears, and now we stand in the quiet aftermath, not to survey the damage, but to appreciate the art that was created. For a long time, you may have looked at your life and seen only the broken pieces, a shattered dream, a fractured heart, a broken trust. You saw yourself as something damaged, something less than whole, something that needed to be fixed or hidden away. But there is an ancient Japanese art form called kintsugi. When a cherished piece of pottery breaks, the artisans do not throw it away. They do not try to glue the pieces back together to hide the cracks. Instead, they meticulously mend the pieces using a lacquer mixed with pure gold. They highlight the lines of fracture, believing that the object is more beautiful and more precious because it has been broken. The scars are not a source of shame, but the very proof of its history and its resilience. This is the final truth of your journey. You were never broken. You were breaking open. And the cracks where the light got in, the wounds that life inflicted, are not scars to be hidden. They are the fissures where the gold is poured. They are the intricate, beautiful lines that trace the story of your strength, your survival, your transformation. They are what make you more beautiful, more resilient, and utterly unique. Every challenge you faced, every tear you shed, every moment you thought you could not go on it, was all part of this sacred art. It was the universe preparing the vessel, creating the lines where the luminous gold of wisdom, compassion, and unshakable inner power could be poured into you. Everything happened for you, not to punish you, but to awaken you, not to diminish you, but to remind you of the infinite, unbreakable strength you had forgotten you possessed. The entire process was an initiation into your own divinity. The universe is not conspiring against you, it is conspiring through you. Now, what masterpiece will you create?